What is good, everybody? Welcome in to
Not
another
what is
episode
good.
of Land Grant Podcast Network's Power 2 Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Jordan, and I'm here with my co-host, DJ. How we living?
We are living very well. I see that we are speaking the King's English today with what is good, everyone.
You know?
I speak African American vernacular English personally, but I'm good.
Switch it up.
I am freezing every single body part off right now because it is younger than my age degrees outside, and I'm doing my best. I've been freezing though. I'm truly doing my best.
You told me this before. It's warmer in New York than it is in Texas.
Like currently?
I walked outside without. Yeah, I walked out. I had on a hoodie and a hat, but I walked outside without a coat today.
Truly,
like it's in the high 30s, almost 40 degrees.
Saying the word warm to describe that is sacrilegious. But
I
understand what you mean. Like warmer in relatively, yes. But
that's not bad weather. It's not fun weather, but that's not bad weather. You can go watch a football game in that weather.
Who's watching a football game in that weather?
Everyone in the Midwest and the Northeast.
Well, yeah, that's because that's what y'all are used to. That's y'all's climate. This is not my climate.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, that's not that bad. Like, you know, if you had to go outside for a little bit of time, get a hat, some light gloves. You could actually get away with the stupid gloves that have the little fingertips so you can text, but don't really
believe
do much.
In those gloves. I will never wear a fingerless glove in my life.
No, not fingerless. They just have like the little fingertip things where you can.
I don't want my gloves. I don't want no part of it, to be honest.
Okay, you don't understand what I'm saying because you live in Texas.
I do.
You don't wear gloves. Are full.
We do.
Full finger gloves. There are no holes in the gloves. No fingernails are peeking out.
You mean the tech-friendly gloves?
Yes.
Okay.
But those gloves don't ever keep your hands warm. But in 40, that's fine. You can get the little text. Yeah, I put a little hat on, maybe a scarf. You can go to a parade, go to a cook-off. You know, go watch a football game.
Going to a parade? Excuse. Child, anyways, it's cold and I have not left my house.
Parades. If they're not going to do it, but if the Bills won a Super Bowl, they would love for a 40-degree day. They would kill for that parade to be on a 40-degree day. They're up there, 40 degrees in Buffalo. Up there, you might see people in short sleeves. If it gets 40 degrees, the 40 degrees in Buffalo plus alcohol, they might be in short sleeves. They would.
Well, yeah, alcohol makes everybody warmer, but
So, you know.
I have not left my house since Wednesday. Is the point? And I'm only leaving my house tomorrow because I have a job. So,
and a Founders
Day. That's where we're
Day.
at. And a Founders Day. Oh my goodness. I was just about to ask you. That was what I was going to ask. How was Founders Day? How was it? This is what is, give me all the numbers. Okay. Obviously 111. I know you guys are 1 year younger than us. And then you have been in Sigma for how many years at this point now?
Oh God. It'll be 8.
Oh my God, we're so old. Wait, did we cross in the same month? I didn't know that.
Yeah, 2017 in March. Yeah.
Well, I crossed the year before you, so I'll be 9. In
you did do 2016, yeah.
So I'll be 9 on March 30th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mine is March 17th. March 30th is my brother's birthday, but March 17th.
We are so old. Like we are so old.
Yes.
Like we meaning my home chapter crossed the line in fall. And I went up to introduce myself to one of the girls and she was like, and I was like, hey, you know, my name is DJ, whatever. I was the quad on the 2016. Like, she was like, I know who you are. I know my Delta history.
All right. Okay.
She said, or like New Iota history, whatever she said. And I was just like,
she ate a little bit with that one.
Am I a part of history?
You are.
I am, but like,
that's 10 years, shorty. Like, yeah.
That's a decade. That is almost a decade. Yeah.
Yeah. Depending on how they count it, it is a decade. Because I don't know if you've noticed this or if y'all count it differently. In Sigma, I'm technically a year older than what I would tell people because they give you credit for the full year. So like it's my 8th anniversary, but
But you're 9.
It would be 9 financial years, which unfortunately it's not 9 financial years because I got married and what's but like it would count as 9 years of service because they would count 17
from
18,
when you paid
19,
from the beginning.
20, yep, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. It'd be 9.
I ain't gonna lie to you.
So you are going to be in your 10th, like I don't know if you were financial the whole time because life be lifing, but you would be counting like into your 10th year of service. So it is a decade.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I really don't know how Delta counts it. I'm sure we do it the same way. So yes, technically it would be 10 years.
And
10
y'all are also different because most of the sororities are on like the business calendar. So you flip over in like July or August.
Our fiscal year starts in June or something like that.
Yeah, like we flip over, we do, which is awful, to be honest with you. Our fiscal year is January through December.
That's silly.
Which sucks because they be asking for dues around Christmas time.
Yeah, but they ask for dues in the middle of the summer for us. Yeah. So well, actually,
that's cool.
I'm a liar. I feel like I lied. No, because they did just change it actually. I lied. We're January 1 to December 31. Now.
I don't know.
I lied.
It sucks. It's awful.
Yeah. I'm not a fan.
Who's trying to pay dues in December, dog? And I know there's going to be like the one person that's Greek that's listening to this and be like, technically it opens up in September. That's still the holidays.
Y'all's economy and our economy is not the same. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. The economy that you are living in and the economy that I am living in is different. I don't want to hear it.
Paying dues early, you're gonna get it on December 31st every year.
You are rich. No. You are rich if you pay your dues early. You are wealthy if you pay your dues early. Actually,
so what I did, and this is the last thing because we have some things to talk about. I am the chapter that I'm going to join. Bless his heart, is one of the bigger chapters that is like actually cares about its members because don't get me started on Greek life in New York and how expensive single event is and how they are not beating the classist allegations.
We never do.
They I'm guessing probably because it's such a big chapter they like just have money in the bank or whatever.
Yeah.
That's not what they do. You can pay your dues yearly. Like you can pay your dues monthly.
Oh, they get.
So, like, I couldn't do it for this year. Yeah. I couldn't do it for this year because I'm not like in the chapter. Like, so this year I'm gonna have to pay, but like next year, like when it's coming, like I could like make a payment. Like basically, I don't know if they're just taking the money and then they pay it, or if they pay it and then I'm paying
it ahead and you pay them back.
How it works, but essentially, so that's nice because I really like if I could just because they're not dumb expensive. I mean, ours are. Yours probably are. They're not dumb expensive, but still being able to split it over 12 months would be so much better. And I don't know why our national organization hasn't set that up. Like that's like, come on, dog. It's freaking 2025.
And the economy
111 years and you ain't figured out a way to collect and like monthly
dues. Because to me, I feel like if there was like a monthly subscription,
subscription, like
if we could have a monthly subscription where like you pay,
like lock it in for the year, of course, but like a monthly subscription. Like
I feel like that's not hard to do, but I know it's also one of those things where it's like at least the attitude like that I've gotten from a lot of older Deltas is just kind of like if it's a priority, then like you are going to make it a financial priority. Like if you save $25 a week for 6 months, like you have your dues basically, or whatever the number shakes out to be. So it's like
dollars in their savings. So
that's what I was saying. So it's like I get, and they're like, oh, if you have older sorors who have children and they have this and they have that and they're able to pay, like you as a young, graduate should be able to. But it's like, also y'all graduated and got jobs that like actually paid your bills. Like we are the first generation that has been graduating and have no earning potential like whatsoever. Like it's just very different. And I hate to like beat that dead horse, but it's just very different. So it's like you do have to kind of work with people who are like on the younger end and still just trying to like figure their stuff out. Like,
and the thing is, it's just offering it. Like you don't like, okay, cool, you got the money to pay yours in one go. Okay, so pay it in one go.
Yeah, love that for you.
Cool. Like,
can I do mine in 4 installments? Like, can I Klarna this?
Can I shot pay some?
Like can I afterpay? Like,
I think for us, dues open up in August or September. So give me 4 payments. Like, let me.
Like, hello, by January 1, we gonna be here.
Yeah,
bro. Gosh.
And
Anyways,
briefly, for those of you who don't understand, we're both in historically Black fraternities and sororities. Our fraternities and sororities, it's a lifetime commitment. And so we have graduate chapters and we pay dues forever. It's a mildly different for some people who join like either certain other cultural ones or like historically white fraternities and sororities like IFC and Panhellenic, where it's largely focused like
just
around
in
the
your collegiate
undergraduate
life. Yeah.
experience. Like for us, it's kind of like a lifetime thing. And really the most of what you do in your fraternity and sorority is really as an older adult member and
Post
stuff like
college.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where that came from. But to actually answer your question, it was fun. One of the benefits of moving to the East Coast is most of the people in my fraternity that I like live in Maryland, including
Oh.
all 4 of my neos. Live in
Oh.
Maryland. And so I just hopped on the Amtrak, spent the weekend in Maryland, had so much alcohol.
A good old drunk time. I know you did.
So much. Like I lost count at the 8th shot. And I am
Old.
you can probably yes, but that's not what I was gonna say.
Sorry.
You know me, and the people listening to this can probably tell. I don't always beat the aggressive allegations, which is partially why I don't get drunk, because outside of like the safety of a home, because I'm like, I what is the line of what I take as disrespectful if I'm outside and drunk? I don't want to know. So,
Oh no. Oh no.
I'd be chilling.
Like,
And I
he
don't
didn't
think
say excuse me.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I don't think that's the line. I don't think I'm that bad. Like I'm not. I know I'm not that bad, but the line's a little higher than that. I can promise you that. But I don't know where it's at. But the point is, when I do get drunk, I turn into like a very aggressive "I love you" drunk. Like,
Oh.
yeah, it's bad. It happens like once a year. And it's funny because I almost always text the same people. So they just laugh at me. I left my very first ever like FaceTime voice message because my sister didn't pick up the phone. But I called her at like 1 a.m. on a Thursday.
Of course not. Why would she answer the phone?
And she had to work and she just texted me back in the morning. So that was funny. But like I'm like looking at my text messages and I'm like, oh God. Like I'm like going through FaceTime, like, why did I call this person? I know I called that. Like, yeah. So but it's very like it's aggressive.
That is so wholesome.
It's like so I play football. I love football, right? You know, when football players hype each other up and they're like pushing and like punching each other in the chest, it's that. It's very much like, and I'm like Biggs. I'm like, I grab on you. I'm like, yeah, you might shake you around a little bit on accident. So it was fun though. It was very too much alcohol, but it was a good weekend.
That's what Founders Day is for. Another educational moment. For those of you who don't know what we're even talking about as far as Founders Day, is that all of our organizations have a day that we were founded on. Some of them are the same day that we were incorporated on. Not all of them. But basically, we celebrate that as the day that is like when our organizations were born. And so our organization's birthday really is the best way to put it. So a lot of our organizations have our Founders Day pretty much are all within like between like November and January, basically. So except for who's the one I'm missing?
Iota.
Oh,
September.
Sorry, September and January. I'm so sorry.
Well, you said almost all, which is accurate. And
yeah, that's what I was like. Sorry to the Iotas. But yeah,
you apologize. You said almost all. It's
I
8
did.
out of 9, so you weren't wrong. I was just
you're correct.
Identifying the one that wasn't in November to January.
My bad. So yes, most of them are in January. So they're just kind of stacked up at this point. Yeah. So January 9th is obviously Jordan's organization, and then my organization is on January 13th. So that's why we're talking about like this podcast. Yes. So that's why we're talking about like what the vibes are. But that sounds fun. I really don't know if I'm going to do anything because again, back to the cold.
I understand.
I have no desire to go out in the cold, but also at the same time, like I do try to at least pop out a little bit for Founders Day. So I'm just kind of like, I might just suck it up and like style an outfit around my trench coat or something. But yeah, so good times.
Yeah, for sure. You put something in the news. Actually,
yes.
let's go ahead and take our ad break here, and then we'll just get into the actual show. So we will be right back after the ads. While we're doing that, maybe you can pause the podcast, or you can take the couple minutes that the ads show up and follow us on YouTube at Get Defensive Sports Network on YouTube. It is also Get Defensive Sports Network on Instagram. Yeah, give us a follow. We'll be right back after the ad break. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Power 2 Podcast. 15 minutes in, the show has officially begun. Hope you enjoyed your history lesson. And it is legitimately history. It is legitimately history. I did not go in as depth as I did on I-80, where I actually talked a little bit more about some of the history and some of the famous members and like why it's important in like Black culture and stuff like that. We didn't do all that, but it is still history. But you put something on the news, which is historic, I believe, in its own right.
Is it? You're gonna have to tell me if it's historic or not. I'm sure it is. But speaking of historic, a very historic human being was surprised the other day on College Football Game Day, where it was told to him in that moment that he will be inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. Who is that? Nick Saban, obviously. So he has officially gotten his bid to be inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. This really should come as a shock to not a single soul on this planet. I mean, the man has won 7 national championships, 10 SEC titles. He's had a career record of 292, 71, and 1. So if anybody deserves to be in the College Football Hall of Fame.
He's been coaching so long that there used to be ties. I forgot that
there used to be ties. Yes.
There have been ties in a long time.
I know. So he is being inducted to the College Football Hall of Fame. 28-year career. I mean, you really can't do any better than what he has done. So congratulations to him.
So the reason why I say it's historic, and I could be wrong because unfortunately the College Football Hall of Fame does not brand itself very well. And so there's some like flaws in that. I think it's also hard because of just the number of people compared to the much smaller professional leagues. But if it is like most Hall of Fames, there is a waiting period. And so they would have waived the waiting period for him. I think, which is why I think it's historic. And again, I could be wrong. I should have Googled it. I didn't. You're Googling it now because you're much better at this than I am. I just be saying my opinion and letting y'all have it.
Okay, so it says the waiting period for players is 10 years after their final season. Coaches must meet the following criteria: head football coach for at least 10 years, coach at least 100 games with a .600 winning percentage, be retired from coaching for at least 3 seasons, and if retired and over the age of 70, there is no waiting period. So because he's 73, they didn't have him wait. Yeah. Okay. They were like, you might die. Let's get you while you're I'm kidding.
I'm kidding. But you're not wrong. You're not wrong. They said we want you to see this.
I will say I am the biggest fan of giving people their flowers while they're still here. So I love that he can retire. I just love his journey right now that he's retired. He went straight into television. Pretty much everybody almost says, like, I give an honor to my Lord and Savior, Nick Saban, before they say anything to this man. And, you know, he's been able to now be inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. He'll be able to have that experience. Like, I just love that he's getting his flowers, like, immediately after having such a great career.
For sure. You know who did not say, I give thanks to my Lord and Savior? What is his name? Oh my God, this is such a bad setup if I'm immediately going to forget his name. There's a Shane Gillis. Is it Sean or Shane? Shane Gillis. He's a comedian. He is like a 6'5" cornbread like boy from the South, but he's a comedian. I think he played college football for a little bit. He's a comedian, and he very much like you look at him and he's like, I don't think he like. But he's not like that at all. He has some like really good jokes about Alabama integrating, like why they decided to like integrate. And he has this like skit that I'll send you that's pretty funny where he's like, it's basically his skit of Remember the Titans, where he's like, we're being forced to integrate, and it, like, you know, and he like goes through it, and it's pretty funny. And like he's gone on some like podcasts and stuff like that, and he's like. He speaks out actually pretty well against like racism and why he doesn't like certain. It's funny. And he talked about like how his dad's a Republican. But anyways, he was talking about he was a guest picker on something, and he was just openly talking about how Alabama was cheating, and Nick Saban did not like that.
LOL. He was like,
I was like, man, I should have watched that episode. He was like making like little jokes, and like Nick Saban's a good sport, but he also did not like that. You could tell he did not like it. It's like, come on.
I mean, especially if it's not true, which I don't know if it's not true or not. Okay. Okay, I was like, I don't know nothing about. I'm not an Alabama historian.
They are not the only people who were cheating, right?
Well, we know Michigan.
I won't do the northern thing where I pretend that Ohio State also didn't have a couple bagmen, but it was not the same. Like, which is why they were winning all the national championships and things like that. Because, we might have a bagman for one or two players. They were having a bagman for the entire roster. There are legitimate differences, and you can't say that there's not. And part of that is in how fast, even just thinking about like NIL, right? Like as soon as it was approved, all the southern states created a collective, 2-3 collectives. Yeah. The states themselves, their governors and stuff was like putting in laws to make it legal in the state and all this stuff. And Ohio State, Pennsylvania, like some of the other ones were like, Congress, please help. Congress, save us,
voice.
They were so like if you view how NIL worked and think about the slowness that it took like schools in the north and the northeast and stuff, that's essentially how I view when it wasn't legal, right? I'm not saying they didn't do it, but they did it less and more cautious, and it wasn't this floodgate that it was in the South. And so Alabama.
Yeah, we were just waiting for it to be okay.
You can't tell me that Alabama didn't pay Julio Jones. I'm not fucking stupid. Come on, dog. Julio. If Reggie Bush was getting paid, you telling me Julio Jones wasn't getting paid?
No,
you were telling me Derrick Henry,
these
6'2"
people were getting paid.
I was, and this is gonna get us into the show because this is about Ohio State. So because Ohio State made the national championship, I was watching highlights because they were coming up the last time they were in the national championship and the game before, which is when they beat Alabama. And I was looking at the names of who was on that team, and I forgot. Like I remember the Ohio State because but I remember who all was on that team. It was Derrick Henry. It was Amari Cooper. It was like that team was stacked. The team that Ohio State beat, and it was literally Zeke Elliott versus Derrick Henry in a rushing battle and like all these clips. I want to go back and watch that game so bad. I know it's on. I might do that this week because I know it's on YouTube or something. But Derrick Henry is so good. And Zeke was so good. And Zeke was like the best running back in the league for like 4 or 5 years. And then Derrick Henry is still one of the best running backs in the league 10 years later. He is a fucking superhuman. You telling me Derrick Henry wasn't paid?
He rushed for 186 yards and got 2 touchdowns yesterday.
Stop playing. You cannot tell me you did not see Derrick Henry, 6'2", 230 pounds at fucking 17, and you didn't pay him. I'm not dumb. I get, but I'm not saying Ohio State didn't pay either. Right? Penn State, maybe they didn't do it. All right. Notre Dame, they don't want to pay now. Maybe they didn't do it. I understand Ohio State did.
They don't want to pay.
Ohio's, listen, I get it. Right, there's a reason that Ohio State is one of the few northern programs up until recently that could sort of compete. Urban came from the South. Urban had a bag man or two. I know how he ran that Florida program, but you're not going to tell me Nick Saban wasn't doing it. Come on now. Anyways, I'm just not stupid, bro. I'm not screaming. Like, you're not gonna play me like that. Like you could do all the stupid shit you want. I know you paid Derrick Henry. I would have paid Derrick Henry.
He was like, we would have found some money for him. Like,
come
period.
On,
no, for sure. We as Southern states were just waiting for it to be okay. There was never a point where we were not doing it. I don't feel like there was ever. Yeah. We just were finding other ways to do it.
Death penalty for it.
We got the death penalty.
Y'all were doing. Eric Dickerson was getting paid. You telling me Derrick Henry getting paid? You telling me Julio Jones wasn't getting paid, bro? Also,
anyway,
funny story. Okay, my brother is 4 years older than me, and he went to Ohio State when Terrell Pryor was there. Terrell Pryor was getting paid. Terrell Pryor was a kid. I'm not going to speak on his situation, but he did not come from means, let's just say. And I don't remember the car, but my brother used to tell me like you always knew where he was because he had this like beautiful like two-door car, and like everyone knew it was Terrell Pryor. And he used to say, like, literally, and this is anecdotal, but it's also true because I've heard it from multiple people, that Terrell Pryor would just like stop at a stop sign, open the door, and like girls would get in his car.
I mean, obviously.
Ohio State was paying too. I'm not saying they wasn't. Don't get me wrong, but come on, Nick. But yeah, it was just funny because Shane Gillis like just on, and you know, like Pat McAfee's there, who you're not the biggest fan of, but Pat McAfee's the instigator, so he was hyping it up. It was hilarious.
Of course, Pat McAfee. If there's one thing that man is skilled at, it's instigating.
Yeah,
that's the only flower I will give him, and it's dead.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So I want to go on a brief rant.
Oh God, we will be here for 20 minutes.
It is, yeah. This is our 2-minute drill. It is not going to be 2 minutes. I want you to view this 2 minute. Yeah, I want you to view this 2-minute drill as the 2 minutes where both teams. It's like a one score game, and both teams got all 3 timeouts, and there's a targeting review.
So
it is a 2-minute
minutes.
Drill, but, there's a couple commercials.
2 football minutes.
It's 2 football. That's how we actually need our 2 minutes. Not 2 minutes.
That's the branding.
2 football minutes.
2 football minutes. Hopefully, those of you who've been listening, you should also understand there has never been a point where we have ever done it in actually 2 minutes. There's never been a point. That is a pithy name for this section of our show.
It is.
2 football minutes. That's brilliant. Okay.
So I have a clip that I want to play through the microphone, and then I want to comment on it because it's making me mad, and I have a legit reason.
Oh God, I'm scared.
Is to play black quarterbacks. Ever since 2000, for the last 20 years, Ohio State has had a black quarterback. I'm not saying that white quarterbacks couldn't have played the position, but what I am saying is that we've always had a black quarterback at that position. We've always been able to run our quarterbacks. And we've been able to run an offensive scheme that allows our running backs and our receivers and our quarterbacks alike to all succeed with the mobility that we keep at the quarterback position. When Ryan Day came to Ohio State, that was the first thing that he stopped. He barely wanted to play C.J. Stroud. He did not recruit C.J. Stroud. Every quarterback since C.J. Stroud has been a mediocre white player, unfortunately, but somebody who's forced into the position. Ohio State had an opportunity to go after Cam Ward, and we didn't. We ended up with Will Howard, who everyone knows is not as good as Cam Ward. Ryan Day refuses to play.
Okay. So
that's a thought. That's a thought process.
Yes, I have a couple of things on this. One, I feel as though we, as 2 Black people, we talk about race a decent amount in here, more than some probably would like. There have been reviews left on my other podcast that I was racist because I was talking about race. I said that Mike Gundy was racist, and he was. And I love the joke that Ohio State isn't going to win a national championship till we have a black quarterback. I've tweeted that. I think that's hilarious. But in the same vein, it is disingenuous to use things like that when it is objectively wrong, because then it takes away from when it's true. And there are a lot of things you can say about Ryan Day, but Ryan Day having a fear or an absolute dislike or the undertones that he is racist and won't play a black quarterback is insane. Also, the video is lying, and this is supposed to be an Ohio State fan. So to combat this, because it pissed me off, and that's why we're talking about it, Ryan Day came here as Ohio State's offensive coordinator. The first thing that he did is coach Dwayne Haskins, black.
Hello.
The second thing that he did, I always forget where my camera is, and so my fingers are always out here. I need to use this hand. The second thing that he did is hold a quarterback. To be clear, am I getting my years mixed up? Who is older, Justin Fields or Dwayne Haskins? Hold on.
Dwayne Haskins is older, isn't he?
Yes. So Joe Burrow is also older than Justin Fields. Okay. So
yes.
The first thing that he did is actually he coached. Yeah, he's been here forever. The first thing that he did is coach JT Barrett's last year, black quarterback. The second thing that he did is run a quarterback battle between Dwayne Haskins and Joe Burrow. Chose the black quarterback, and Joe Burrow went to LSU. We know what he did. Dwayne Haskins, RIP, is not in the. He's not alive anymore, unfortunately. But he also was not super as great in the NFL. But he chose a black quarterback over Joe Burrow, and we know what what Joe Burrow turned into. And then after Dwayne Haskins was one and done, and unfortunately he never should have been one and done. He needed another year. He had white quarterbacks in the roster. So the third thing he did is go into the portal and get Justin Fields, a black quarterback. While he had Justin Fields, there was a white quarterback by the name of Jack Miller, who grew up an Ohio State fan his entire life, had been recruited to Ohio State for at least a year and a half, 2 years. And Ryan Day said, this kid's not enough. Recruited CJ Stroud over Jack Miller and brought in 2 quarterbacks in the same class because, yes, you're an Ohio State fan and you're a good quarterback, but I like this black kid better. Recruited CJ Stroud over him. That next year also recruited Kyle McCord, who's white. Had a quarterback battle between CJ Stroud, Kyle McCord, and Jack Miller. Again, chose the black quarterback.
The rest is history, right?
like what are we talking about? And then, okay, so he recruits Kyle McCord white. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He recruits Quinn Ewers white. He was the best quarterback ever, right? Like, and his recruiting is literally he was the best player of all time. Like that was his recruiting profile.
Yeah.
Okay. But then after that, the last quarterback that he just recruited in the 2023 class, black kid from Georgia named Aaron Nolan, and the quarterback that he most recently recruited, who is going to be an Ohio State legend. And I hate putting that on kids, but this kid is going to be so good. He's going to be so good. Black kid from Ohio. So as a podcast of black people who does talk about race, my 2-minute warning later on is about race, who does do these things, who has called coaches and players and things racist and things like that. I just feel like that is super disingenuous. And there are a lot of negative things that I'll say about Ryan Day. There's a lot of negative things I'll say about college football coaches. There's a lot of negative things that I'll say about an industry that is run and facilitated off of the backs of black players and truthfully off of the backs of black coaches.
Black people.
Until you get to offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, head coach. You look at all these staffs. You can go to almost any staff in the country. Offensive
all the position coaches are black.
Coordinator, but white. Head coach, white. Corners, DBs, except quarterback coach. Of course, quarterback coach is white. But like, you know what I mean? Like, so
maybe the O-line coach is also white.
Yeah.
Like,
there's a lot of things that you can say when you talk about college football and race and all these other kind of stuff. But to say that as an supposed Ohio State fan, to get on a mic, to get on TikTok, to make this case, and then also to just be blatantly wrong. You have your years off. He said he didn't recruit CJ Stroud. Urban Meyer was kicking kickers and playing touch me in fucking bars when CJ Stroud was at Ohio State. So you don't even have your years right. Like, what are you talking about? And so
I'm sorry. Wait. Pause. Urban Meyer was doing what? Where?
It was sorry. That saying that is crazy because it was consensual. But like Urban Meyer, like he had a game in like Detroit or Cleveland or something like that, and he was born in Ohio, coached at Ohio State. Instead of riding back on the team plane after a loss, he went to Columbus to see his grandkids and was caught at a bar that has his name on it, rubbing on a woman that was not his wife.
Oh,
and it was consensual. Like, that's like saying that was a kind of crazy way to say it if you didn't understand. Like, this is no allegation.
It's kind of like, cancer or drive-by. Like, you have to explain these things.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just
like, this is on an Ohio State site, so most of the people listening are Ohio State fans. They know exactly what I'm talking about. But you're right. I should have explained that a little bit better. There are no allegations around that. There's nothing. He just didn't go back with his team, went to a bar in Columbus that's named after him, and was dancing and rubbing on a woman that was not his wife, while being like 0-6 or something crazy. So, so he didn't. So who recruited CJ Stroud? Like, what? I just thought it was disingenuous. I won't
take a
talk
shot
about
every time Jordan says disingenuous. You should be 3 shots in, people.
Yeah. It's like my favorite word right now, but it's the perfect word for the situation because there's so many things that you can say, but at the end of the day, Ryan Day has always shown that he will play who he thinks is the best quarterback. Yeah. The one thing that is true with Ryan Day, except for this next quarterback that we're going to have, if anything, Ryan Day is, this is a made up word, he's heightist. Ryan is not like short quarterbacks. If you go through his recruiting, every quarter, and me and my friend, because we had an Ohio State podcast, we talked about it. Every single quarterback that he's recruited and landed, every single one of them has been 6'2" to 6'4", 205 to 220. He's never landed a quarterback under 200 pounds. He's never landed a quarterback under 6'2". They are a freaking type. And then you look at the picture and they're all just like, they all look the same. Like
He has a
very
type.
much has it, but it's not a racial type. And so I just thought that was dumb. I just thought that. And the last thing I'll say about it, Will Howard is not a more dynamic quarterback than Cam Ward, but you could argue that he's a better quarterback. You could argue, obviously, that we're here. And if you actually watch the games, and a lot of people don't, and I get it, and I understand, and you see the excitement and you see the things, that's why bad quarterbacks get drafted all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Miami legitimately was one of the best teams in the country. And
Mm-hmm.
some of their problems rely on their coach being a loser. We've said that since the very first episode of this podcast. But it also relies on the fact that Cam Ward fumbles and throws interceptions at an ungodly rate. And against
Ridiculous.
bad teams, he can make up for that. But when you play a good team, you don't. And that is why he has, despite his talent, he has never won. And they're outside of having to be at least 6'2", 215, so that when you get in the program, he can make you 225. That is the one standard of his program at quarterback. The other thing that he will not stand for is a quarterback that throws interceptions. Kyle McCord is no longer on this roster because he threw too many interceptions and he fumbled too much. Kyle McCord got some Heisman votes, threw for like 5,000 freaking passing yards and 1 million touchdowns this year. He had a good year, but he also threw like 15, 16 interceptions. That is not acceptable in Ryan Day's program. Ryan Day was never, ever, ever going to talk to Cam Ward. Ohio State fans wanted that. He never called him. That was never going to happen. So I just thought it was dumb, and it just made me mad. And maybe it was going to make me mad anyway, but it also made me mad because I saw it like right after, because I was like on a whole bunch of super positive Ohio State stuff because of the thing, and then I saw that video.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of things I'll say about that, man, and there's a lot of things that I'll say, but I just felt like as a podcast of Black people that legitimately talks about the racial things in this, it was just dumb. It was making me mad, and I would give up this podcast and this mic today if people like that could never own a mic again. We need to do a fucking background check. It needs to be like we need to do something. Like you need to pass a test.
You need to like pass quizzes. You need to do something. Yes.
To pass a test and have an interview and then wait 7 days before you can get a podcast mic in the mail or something. Like it is so freaking annoying. I want to say that. That's fucking stupid.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want us to mark this moment in history as one of the first times that at least I personally have heard Jordan actually defend Ryan Day on this podcast.
You got me defending a white man on Beyonce's internet? That is crazy.
On Beyonce's good internet, which, by the way, okay, I need to have just a slight moment that has nothing to do with sports, but it kind of does. And the reason why it does is because she performed on Christmas Day at an NFL game. So it was sports. We are 3 days away from her special announcement that she has. After she performed at the Texans game, who do they play? The Ravens, Texans-Ravens game. She had posted on Instagram just the date 1/14/25. And we're a few days away from that. And I saw the funniest TikTok because somebody was like, okay, listen, Beyonce, we don't want nothing but the big three. Either you're announcing an album, you're announcing a tour, or you're giving us the visuals.
I don't have the money for a tour.
But he just said, but what he said was the point is a movie, the big three. We don't be selling horses from your farm. No more perfume. We can't take specialized cowboy hats. Like you need to be announcing another album. You need to be announcing visuals, or Renaissance is available for streaming because I still haven't seen the Renaissance documentary. But what we're not going to do is any more commercialized products. I don't want to see no more Sir Davis. And I love it. I love that Beyonce is monetizing her brand. Like, not kidding. Like, I don't want to see no sacred deep conditioning treatment. Like, no, I want the big three.
Yeah.
Personally, I want an album. And if it is a rock and roll album or something, or alternative rock, we need that girl from Paramore. What's her name? Haley, whatever her name is. She needs to be on it.
Yes.
So anyway,
Beyonce cannot.
It can't be a tour. I can't afford a tour.
In the fall, maybe I can make it work. But it really needs to be 2026, dog.
It can't be.
Do it right now.
Because what is this about these artists announcing tours and then tickets going on the same week? Can we stop doing that?
I do not like that at all. And there's a thin line on Beyonce's internet to say this. I have never loved Beyonce's music, but I've always been a big fan of her talent because I think there's I'm married to a big Beyonce fan. There's a line, I'm on the right side of history. I've never always liked her songs, but I've always like recognized her talent. Like I've never been one of those like Beyonce's not good. That's stupid.
Yeah, that's
Beyonce
just
is
dumb.
arguably the greatest
Don't
performer of
start.
all time. Like I just
Yes.
don't like sit down and like listen to Beyonce albums.
I mean,
And
you listen to someone named Rilo Rodriguez, so obviously not.
I do not listen to him, but
Oh, I'm
close
sorry.
enough.
Who is the
Close enough.
person?
Close enough. Like
You
you're in
listen
the right
to
vein.
Pooh Shiesty. Like,
Yeah,
you're not
I do
listening to
listen to
Beyonce.
Pooh Shiesty. I do
You
not
listen to
listen.
a
Hey,
person named Pooh
hey,
Shiesty.
free Pooh Shiesty. You know, free him in 2020.
Sorry, that's my other friends who listen
Um,
to Rilo Rodriguez.
yeah,
I
that's
don't.
very much a Texas thing. Yeah, but like I
He's
listen.
from
Yeah, I listen
Alabama,
to.
actually.
Okay, okay, I didn't know that, but still,
He's
um,
Southern, and I can't understand him.
yeah.
Anyways, keep going.
But so I bought Zaria 2 tickets to go see her last tour, and I
Yes.
was gonna go with her, but then she was like, "Oh, maybe I'll go with her mom," and then she ended up going with her friend, and her friend bought the tickets from me, and I was like, I didn't go because I'm like, it's not a super big
You don't
deal
know
for
the
me,
songs. Yeah.
but then I saw it. And I was jealous. I wish I was there, not knowing
So
the songs or anything. So I told her, I was like, the next time I gotta go. But then she dropped her last album, and I actually really like the country album. I really like that album. It's
really?
the and I found out because like my wife loves Beyonce. I don't like a lot of her singles, which is why I didn't think that I liked her. But I
Mm.
know a decent amount of her like deep cuts. There's a lot of songs
Mm.
but I've never liked the full album. But I really do like the last one. So then that came out, and I was like, God, I already said I'm probably gonna go to the Beyonce because that's like going to see Prince, right? Like that's one of those people like you just
Yes, it's like
you
Tina Turner, Michael
yeah,
Jackson.
like you
Like,
just have
yeah,
to see. And then
yeah.
she dropped an album that I liked, and I was like, no, I really gotta go. And so please, not 2025. Like,
Like, if she announces a tour,
help me out.
I'm not gonna be ready. I'm not. But my thing is, she does usually tour her projects. That's usually what she does. So
I
that's why I'm just
know,
kind of
and I've
like,
been
I'm
scared.
prepared for her to say that Cowboy Carter is going on tour. And I feel like the Christmas Day show was like the taste of like what the tour would be like. Like that's kind of what
It's
I'm
all
getting.
lining up. It's all lining up.
Yeah, that's why I'm just like, I think it's a tour.
I'm terrified.
But also she's
Financially.
released an album every year for the past like 3 years or something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm also kind of like, it could be the album announcement. Like it could be because we know that that Renaissance, we know this project is in 3 parts.
But it also the tour would also make sense because for those of you who don't care know about Beyonce runs a freaking boot camp for tour. Like it's tough.
Yeah.
And literally just for that, I heard the things because she did it with TSU's band, just for the Super Bowl. Not Super Bowl, but it should have been the Super Bowl. But shout out to Kendrick.
I can't wait for Kendrick.
The Christmas thing, they said that they were practicing 6 weeks for that. So she's already in shape and like in the mode of like practicing design, sets, all of that kind of stuff. So it would make sense to like, you know,
it's tour time. I know.
But like,
I know.
God,
we can only.
I don't have the money for this, Beyonce. Please.
None of us have the money, and we be begging this lady. We be like, yeah. You know we're broke, like but she don't care because the thing about it is we broke, but we're still buying the products. Now, anyways, I did want to respond to what you were saying about Ryan Day and that I am never a fan of when you start diving into shit that you just don't know what you're talking about. And that sounds like that's what that creator was doing. Like sometimes people be looking for answers for things for whatever reason, and then they just start coming up with shit. And that is very dangerous. And I don't like defending white people. But it is very, very dangerous to indicate that someone is racist when they're not. Because as soon as like the racist allegations like actually get like put onto someone, it's hard for it to come off. Now, granted, if you're actually racist, sucks for you. Hate that for you. Don't be racist. But if you are not actually racist, that is dangerous rhetoric to be peddling around that Ryan Day has a problem with black quarterbacks when that's based on your historical analysis is obviously not the case like that. And if you are an Ohio State fan or an admirer or whatever the case is, like you should never get in that sort of mode where you are indicating something like that. Like that's just very dangerous. And that's the only thing I'll say about that. Like I feel very strongly about like only calling people racist who are actually racist.
Yes.
Like If you're not
Because
actually,
it does matter. Like it does
it
matter.
matters because what starts to happen, and this is the point in society that we're reaching a little bit, is that now when people do say something is racist that's actually racist, people are like, no, you're just saying that because you're mad. And now we're getting into a space where like people are not taking racism as like a serious like issue. So it's like you can't just be putting this on people just because you feel a way about whatever. Like that's ridiculous. Like
I probably have like 5 hours of time complaining about Ryan Day this year. Like,
yeah,
I get it, but like that is just a lot. And then like one of the things that blew me is he was like, ever since CJ Stroud, it's been 2 years.
Right. You make it seem like CJ Stroud was like a decade ago.
Right. Like it's been 2 quarterbacks.
It's been 2 seasons. Like, what are we?
And if you look at the roster, half the quarterbacks on the roster are black right now. Or well, it's that number is going to flip just because people are transferring. But like
transferring, yeah.
It was like it was either 2 and 2 or 2 and 3, whatever it was. It doesn't matter. But like,
and there's not a quota. Like, there's not a.
It's not. It's not like right. Like it's who plays the position, whatever. Like
exactly. Like,
and it's who's good. And I. Which is why I love the Ohio State black quarterbacks jokes, because Ohio State is one of the only schools, especially at its level, that has consistently had black quarterbacks for a long time. Like I'm telling you, when we had Kyle McCord, I was like, he can't run. Like which is hilarious because CJ didn't run either, so it was bullshit. Because CJ didn't run. Like he
was not a runner. No,
that didn't run, but it was so funny. He was like, he can't run. Like what is this white boy doing back there? But like, so it's like funny jokes, but like. It's funny when it's a joke. It's
not funny when you actually start saying that Ryan Day has some sort of bias.
Like, what are you talking
like
about?
that's not cute. That's not cute.
Yeah.
And the whole like black quarterback versus white quarterback conversation, I really kind of hope dies down after a couple years, because yes, there was a point in the last like decade where we saw this sort of bum rush of like more and more black quarterbacks, because they should be playing quarterback because they're just as smart and just as capable and just as everything else as any other position. But we had a historical issue with that, right? But like now we're here. Now we know that black athletes have the ability to play every position on the ground.
It's
like,
it's 50-50, but there's a lot.
There's a lot of black quarterbacks.
More than
it's ever been. Exactly. Because they actually got the chance to play at quarterback. Because if you guys don't know, there was literally a systemic suppression of black athletes playing at quarterback. They truly believe that the black athletes were only the muscle and the bronze and the whatever. And so they always were putting them in positions that were that, because they felt like quarterbacks were smarter and were more whatever. And so they have, racism.
It wasn't just quarterbacks. It was up the middle. Like you couldn't.
It was a lot. Yeah.
You couldn't play center and you couldn't play middle linebacker.
You couldn't play the positions that required, not to be funny, but the positions that require like maybe more thinking than other positions. Yeah. So there was the systemic issue of like, oh my gosh, only not was it ever like said directly? No, not necessarily, but like you understood that like black people weren't playing those positions. Now we're finally getting to a point where like both black and white athletes can play every position on the ground. So let's stop with this bullshit.
There's a white corner in the NFL. He's great.
There's a what?
Freaking Ladd McConkey just had 197 yards in a playoff game, which is nuts.
Insane.
What?
Insane.
What?
I want to go back and watch the highlights because I can't believe it.
Come on. But it's weird because like Ladd is so funny, because it's not that I didn't think he was good at Georgia, because he always made the big plays at Georgia. Like he always, but like there's a difference between like he's good enough to be in the league. He's probably going to be someone's third or fourth receiver and play for like 8 years. Like the Brian Hartline thing, play for like 8 years, maybe, 750, 800 is the most he has. And then he goes and turns into a wide receivers coach kind of thing or whatever.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yards in the playoffs as a rookie. All right.
Period. Okay. But the point is, like, I am kind of getting over the over discussion of the black quarterback, because I do feel like we finally reached a point where it's like it has been proven time and time again that black athletes can play quarterback, and they do play quarterback differently. So much so to the point that now the quarterback position has completely evolved, which don't get me into the quarterback history because I will start. But Lamar Jackson being one of the individuals who has truly changed the way that you play the quarterback position. And I love that he has not ever departed from it. He has not ever been like, okay, I should run less. Like,
not going to, but he should win.
He's
so good.
He should. He is having the best season that a quarterback has ever had, but they're going to give it to Josh Allen. And that's fine, because the reason why because the same people who vote for MVP are the same people who vote for all pro. And apparently only one person on the Bills is all pro, and that's Josh Allen. Y'all really trying to drive home this whole he ain't got no help narrative. So just give him the MVP. It's fine. We are 48 minutes into this. into this podcast, we need to review these games. So Ohio State and Texas played, and Ohio State was playing, and I was not shocked by what occurred. I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to lie. I was not shocked by what occurred. I told y'all last week that it was Ohio State's game to lose. So, and that's what happened, pretty much.
Yeah, I want to give a brief mea culpa.
Come on, Latin.
Texas's defense is legit.
Their defense is good. Yeah.
I didn't believe it. I said on this podcast, I said on the other podcast, I said they hadn't played anyone, they hadn't played a real offense, and all of that is true.
Yeah,
and
but they gave it their best shot.
Moment. Like they're good. There's some stupid arguments that are coming up about like locking up Jeremiah Smith and things like that, and that's not true. There's literally screenshots of different times when they're like playing three guys on him and
three
stuff
on
like
him,
that.
yeah.
And then also like Ryan Day alluded to this in his press conference, where it's like sometimes they got pressure so we couldn't get to him when he was open, and other times we just didn't run as many plays because we had penalties that like shot us in the foot. We were in 2nd and 20 and stuff like that, and so it just and like there's a difference between throwing to him when it's 2nd and 5 and you're running your regular offense. When it's 2nd and 20, now they're definitely bracketing him because they know you want to try to get a big play and stuff like that. But I want to give them their props. Like they're the first team to sack Ohio State in the playoffs. Ohio State hadn't had a single sack.
Really? I didn't know that.
They didn't give up a single sack in the playoffs. Texas had 2. They had some good like run stuff. So Ohio State did not run the ball well against them. You can give a lot of teams that game plan and they wouldn't be able to do it. The only team because Texas and Michigan aren't the only teams that's played zone against Ohio State. They just do it better than everyone else.
They're just different. Yeah. It was a very well scouted game.
Athletes to do it and stuff. So I do want to credit them there. But at the end of the day, the thing that we said it was true ended up being true is that Texas has to score to win. And even if Ohio State doesn't show up offensively, which was the thing, and you do give some credit to Texas, but they didn't show up offensively. 9 penalties, almost all of them. Like there were Ryan Day counted 6 drives that they stalled on. 1 was an interception, and the other 5 were penalties that put them behind the sticks. So the offense did not show up. But even still, the biggest thing that I wanted to talk about the entire time was how does Texas score? And they scored twice. It was like Steve Sarkisian. One of the things that he like in the world of like offensive minds, one of the things that he is credited for that people think he's the best at is he has his finger on the pulse. Like he's a very timely play caller. And you see that, right? The 4th and 13 against Arizona State. That was a check by Quinn, but you give like 2 plays, right? Having that there to be checked to in case they blitzed. Perfect, right? They scored on 2 wheel routes. But they called them at the perfect time. They caught them when Ohio State was blitzing
when
their linebackers were mugged up and they snuck the running back out. Like very timely, they both ended up being touchdowns, and so the arch thing that was a very timely kind of like fake between the legs sort of thing. Like so, that is one of the things that people credit him the most for as like his thing. But at the same time, everything was hard for them. You had to pull out trick plays. You had to do these sort of things, and so it was ultimately how do they score?
And that's what I said. I said Ohio State's defense is an issue. Like it's an issue, and if it wasn't for the penalties that they had towards one of Texas's last drives, where there was like a PI in the end zone and all this other stuff, like that drive would have been over. Drive would have been over. So it's just like the defense that Ohio State is also able to exhibit in the red zone specifically, like Texas, in my opinion, is not talented enough yet to score those sorts of situations. Then they lost Golden early in the game, and I know he came back eventually, but like that's kind of like their guy. So it was just
and it's like, so I want to point this out just because I think it's important. I don't love EPA. It's a made up stat, but When I only use it, I think when numbers are like when it really, even if you don't understand what the stat means, it really shows something. Texas had a negative 20.92 EPA when passing.
Damn.
You don't need to know what EPA means to understand that that's bad.
That's not a good number.
EPA is
That is not a good
expected points
number.
added. I don't know how they do it, but essentially, Texas passing the ball lost them 20 points. Is essentially what it's
Pretty
essentially
much.
what that is
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
Ohio State had a 95% stop rate. Stop rate is just very simple. Texas has the ball. Do you make them punt or force a turnover?
Yeah.
It's a stop if they get 0 points. Doesn't matter how it happens, it's a stop. Ohio State's stop rate was 65%. Havoc plays are sacks and tackles behind the line of scrimmage, interceptions, things like that. Ohio State had 11 havoc plays. They had 10 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, an interception, and 2 fumbles forced. They didn't get both of the fumbles; they only got one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
absolutely suffocating is a word that we would use.
Yes, that is what that game was. And Texas still, right, they put up 14 points, right? They were at the 1 yard line. They had a chance to tie it because, again, Ohio State's offense wasn't playing great. But Ohio State has 5 to their name goal line stands. 5.
Mm-hmm.
They have this one. They have the one against Michigan where another Jack Sawyer play where Jack Sawyer intercepted him, and that that and everyone's saying it and everyone's right. That should have been his legacy play, and it wasn't because the offense didn't score. They had the one against Penn State, they had one against Nebraska, and they had one against Indiana. In 15 games, Ohio State has 5 goal to go, less than 10 yards, and most of them are like starting at 2 or 3 yards goal line stands. This is not an easy defense. No, you didn't expect a sack fumble, but once it was 3rd and 8, I said Texas wasn't scoring.
Oh, it wasn't happening. It was not happening.
I didn't expect Texas.
Yeah, that was pretty. I mean, I think he made up for it. I think that is now his legacy play, and to me, that's better. So because he was able to he scored himself. Like, hello, I knew once after the PI they didn't score after that. Like right after that PI, I knew they weren't scoring. I was like, they literally handed you a fresh set of downs, and you didn't get it on the first. Like they're not scoring. They had to work entirely too hard. Quinn, like I said about Quinn, love the kid to death, but when he gets shook, he is shook. He's shaken. He is shaken. He is not stirred. That is what happens. So, the one side note is I thought that him and Jack, is that his first name? Sawyer?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
First of all, that sounds like the name of like somebody who came and stole land, but I'm sorry, a colonizer, excuse me. But also like, I love him and Quinn, yours like relationship. Like they spoke about that for a little bit and I was like, oh, that's cute that they're like actually like friends and whatever. And, he looked at him after he took the ball, was like, F you or whatever they said. And I love little shit like that. But yeah, it was a pretty decisive win on Ohio's part, which, we were not, I don't think either one of us were. I mean, even on College Game Day, like they were low key talking about it. Like it was like a foregone conclusion. Like they were trying to give Texas its credit, but, Ohio State is a different beast in the playoffs.
Yes. I mean, with the way they're playing right now, and again, so much of it is on the defense. That the offense can come out, throw an interception, have 9 penalties, have according to how Ryan Day counted it, have 6 drives that they shot themselves in the foot and ruined themselves and stuff like that. And the defense still put them in a place where they can win that game.
It's
and they made Texas. And there are a lot of things that I love about this game. One, there's a quote supposedly going around that when Texas got to the 1, someone in the press box for Ohio State was like, wow, they scored quick there. And the defensive coordinator was like, they haven't scored yet. And then we saw what happened. Love that. Love every second of that.
LOL.
Hilarious.
It was like, hold on.
Yeah, like that, if that's true, that is hilarious.
Got too much dip on your chip.
And I as an Ohio kid who grew up on the Buckeyes, I just think it is so cool. And I know everyone's talking about it, and whatever, but I really think that moment couldn't have happened to someone better than Jack Sawyer. Like,
Yeah.
and it's all true, right? Jack Sawyer was the first recruit that committed to Ryan Day when he became the head coach. And he was a 5-star. And that matters because Ohio State just got rid of Urban Meyer. Every school was calling him like, you don't want to go there. You don't know this first-time head coach. He was the first player to announce, the first draft-eligible player to announce that he was coming back for his senior year. And the players basically said, when Jack said they're coming back, I knew I had to come back. So this roster being back today is Jack Sawyer. Everyone talks about him as a leader and as the thing, right? Like, he took the Michigan loss the most, right? Like, he would not let them plant the flag, and everyone talks about that, and I get it. Like, that is a level of disrespect that some people allow and some don't. And as an Ohio kid who is 0-4 against Michigan, the last bit of respect that he could have in that moment is to not let them, is to not continue the disrespect. And he was very visibly upset. And he didn't fight and throw punches. He took the flag, he ripped it up, he was yelling, screaming, etc. And then for him to get this moment, and I know I'm talking a lot about Ohio State, and I'll move on, but like, Jack Sawyer was supposed to be Joey Bosa. He was supposed to be Nick Bosa. He was supposed to be Ohio State's next guy, the guy who comes in 3 years, starts as a freshman, racks up 30, 35 sacks, something crazy, goes, and he's a top 5 pick and goes and wins Defensive Player of the Year as a rookie. Like, that's what he was supposed to be. And it was even more so because he was from Ohio. And always compared him to like Jadeveon Clowney in that he was never the best pass rusher, but he's amazing against the run. And so Jadeveon Clowney as the number 1 pick, maybe he disappointed, and no, he's not going to be a Hall of Famer, but he has an amazing career. And that's what Jack was for us. He was a leader, but he never turned into a Bosa. He never turned into a 10-sack guy. It's going to take 16 games, but he's going to get 10 sacks this year for the first time in his career. Never had it. And so 4 years. And so there is a lot of kind of disappointment that people felt around him. And because I think a lot of people, and this is not a diss to people, but a lot of people don't understand all of the ins and outs of football, even as a football fan. People don't respect run stuffing DNs.
Oh, right? Of course not. Football's a hard sport to understand.
Yeah, like if, and that's why I said it's not a diss. Like, if you're not getting sacks, they don't know what you're doing as a DN, right? Like, they don't respect, like, leadership is an intangible that people can get over, right? They want to see the sacks, they want to see the flashy plays, and stuff like that. And so, not that people didn't like Jack, but he also got a lot of kind of stuff about that because he never turned into Nick Bosa, right? And so, or Joey Bosa. And so for him to be the first recruit, to be the first to come back, to lead all these guys to come back as seniors, to lose to Michigan, to have all of these things, and then for him to make that play. I mean, that's just one of those things. Like, that's one of the things that makes
you can't write a better story.
You couldn't write a better movie than that. And I just think that's very cool. And as an Ohio kid who is not 6'5", 260, and was not good enough to play for Ohio State, I understand what he says when he said, I dreamed of this moment. Like, I dreamed of leading Ohio State to a national championship, and he's about to fucking do it. Like, that shit is fucking
that's
cool.
Iconic. So, no, yeah, like we love when dreams come true.
Yeah, so I also wanted to that was dope. Do you have any other thoughts on the game or the moments? There was so much in there. Like,
it was jam-packed. I don't. I was going to say something, but I was like, I actually don't. I do think that Texas will be here next year, which I know I didn't say that last episode, but I do believe that Texas, they earned my respect. They earned my respect. That's exactly what I was getting at. Like, they earned my respect. Because at first I'm just kind of like, same thing. Like, they haven't really played anybody, whatever, blah, blah. But like, Ohio State is not an easy team to go up against. So yes, it was a foregone conclusion that Texas probably wasn't going to win it, but I do appreciate Texas's effort. I think Texas played true, like, to the best of their ability. And I think that, with a little bit more recruiting and, a couple of different pieces, get some people back from injury, I think that they're going to be in a good spot next year too. So love that for them.
Yeah. And Texas, in my opinion, Texas is one of the 4 or so teams right now that has the ability to stay because they have a very distinct identity.
Yeah.
Ohio State's one. Texas is one.
Yeah.
Oregon's one.
Oh, yeah.
I think Notre Dame is one,
Mhm.
unless Marcus Freeman takes the Bears job, which
Okay, we don't have to talk about. We don't need to talk about that. We don't need to
yeah,
talk about
that's an off-season conversation. I wouldn't consider that job, but like I
But
think
speaking
they
of-
were, but yeah. So like Texas is going to be here. Like I think Texas is going to be here for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of Marcus Freeman, Penn State and Notre Dame, which we actually
Instant
reviewed these out. Instant classic, number one. Yes, we reviewed these out of order because this game obviously happened first.
Yeah, but we were talking about Ohio State, so you just transitioned into it, and it made sense. It was fine.
Yes. Notre Dame putting together the comeback that they put together. They deserve to be in the championship just off of that. Like, just off of that. Because it really looked like Penn State was going to run away with that game for a while. And it just, I love it. I just love all of it. I hate the amount of injuries that occurred in that game on both sides, but especially on Notre Dame's side. I don't know how many players it was, but I think they lost like 4 people or like 4 or 5 people in that game. So, that's not ideal, but oh my gosh, it was so good.
Yeah. I mean, let's just, and this is something we don't get to do often because we talk about a lot of games, but there's not that many games. Let's just go through something really quick. Penn State. Sorry, Penn State had
what school are we talking about?
Penn State had 14 havoc plays created. They had 8 tackles for loss. They had 4 sacks, and they forced an interception and a fumble. Their defense was hooping. Let me see where
their defense was hooping. I'm screaming.
Yeah. Nick Singleton, 15 carries for 84 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was playing great. Like the way that the game played out. Oh, sorry, they forced 2 interceptions. So they forced 2. Yeah, it was 2 interceptions. I think maybe I said something different. They forced 2 interceptions on top of the other thing that I said: the 4 sacks, the 8 tackles for loss, the 14 havoc plays. Yeah. And that is the one thing that I will say about Notre Dame is that they have also very much earned my respect in that I still don't know that they're a good team compared to the other side of the bracket. When you look at Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, like that
what
side
y'all
of the
went through
bracket,
versus what they went through. Yeah.
And it's funny that I mentioned all the teams that Ohio State played because Ohio State played the hardest schedule. But like when you look at those teams, I think that no matter who won, no matter who came out of that side of the bracket, I think Notre Dame would be an underdog to that team.
Yes.
Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, whatever. So I don't know how good of a team that they are, but sometimes it's just getting hot at the right time and it's showing resilience and it's being tough and it's being timely. And that is Notre Dame.
Notre Dame is tough and timely.
Anyone on defense. They're just playing good defense. They're definitely not overwhelming anyone on offense. They're barely playing offense, but when they need it, they're doing it. They had the worst kicker in the country. And he hasn't missed a field goal in the playoffs.
What the heck?
Like
they won the game off his leg.
Hasn't missed. Worst kicker in the country. They were the only team in the country that was at or under 50% of kicks made, and he hasn't like.
He won the game.
If they weren't playing Ohio State, I would say they might be a team of fucking destiny because nothing that they're doing outside of just being well coached and fighting and like all the intangibles, fucking tie up your bootstraps bullshit that people fit.
Yeah.
Like
next man up. They're on their 4th defensive lineman. Like
that they're here. Like Marcus Freeman, dog. Like
I know.
That's a hell of a coach, man. That is a hell of a coach.
I know.
Like, and honestly, respectfully, fuck him. Because why are you this good of a coach and that attractive? What are we talking about? God has favorites.
Is there anything that you have?
You're rich because you're this good of a coach.
Rich. You're rich. Your wife is gorgeous. You're
like leave something for us, please.
I really, and this is like. It's one of those, I'm gonna be honest with you. It's one of those things where it's like there's this meme that goes around where people are like, oh, I just hope everyone's having fun. And they use the meme a lot for like when you are rooting for both teams. Like that's where I'm at on this. Like, I just hope everybody is out there having fun. I know we haven't gotten to the Ohio State Notre Dame matchup yet, but like I just hope everybody's having fun because both of these teams are so easy to root for. I know that's why I'm speaking from my perspective because I don't have as much skin in the game, but like I am rooting so hard for Notre Dame because of everything that you just said. Like the only thing that concerns me, and it's the same thing I said about Oregon, is they are on a 13-game winning streak. And maintaining a winning streak is very, very difficult, especially in the national championship, somewhere that they haven't been in a while, 2014 at 13, something like that. It's been around the same time as Ohio State. So that's my only But as far as the Penn State Notre Dame game goes, like that was a team of destiny, as you said. But I also think Penn State has also solidified themselves as a team that should not be slept on, for sure. Penn State is, I mean, from what I understand, because I'm not a college football historian, they've been kind of knocking on this door and always missing it right at that moment for a while. So this just wasn't their year, but it was a good, I mean, they're an okay team. Like they've got some spaces that they could improve in, but you know, they don't suck. They don't suck.
Yeah. So honestly, I'm hoping that Ohio State beats them by 50 and that Notre Dame and that Marcus Freeman takes the Bears job, because I was rooting, because they're in the NFC, I was rooting for the Bears when they had Justin Fields.
Right.
Go win 6 Super Bowls, dog. I want to root. I cannot root for you at Notre Dame. I'm sorry. I can't do it. I need him to get another job so I can root for him as much as I want to. And if he takes the Bears job, I'll be in Chicago. Me and you can that's somewhere close to the middle.
I'll be in Chicago. Yeah, it's crazy.
We can meet up in the middle and go to a Bears game and if it times up with when's their seasons? No, it doesn't time up. But yeah, whatever. I would love to root for Marcus Freeman. He seems like such a good guy. I mean, he's an OSU alum, which doesn't matter to most, but it does matter to me. Like, I didn't know that. Yeah, he played linebacker at Notre Dame at Ohio State.
I had no idea.
Yeah, he's such a good guy. Like, such a good coach.
He's a great coach. I feel like linebackers make really good coaches.
I agree.
Like,
I may be biased, but I agree. If I had the I know you see it like in like the NFL media, those people who've like made a living like scouting and talking about quarterbacks, and now there's a guy who does it for like offensive linemen and like former corners do it. If I had the time, I would create a universe that just studied and talked about linebackers, because I think it's the most understood position. And there's a misunderstood. Thank you. Misunderstood position, but I didn't have the time to dedicate to running like a blog and going through the film and that sort of stuff. But
running a blog, I would love.
That's how it all starts. Like all these, there's this dude, maybe O-line. I don't remember his name, but like it's like O-line Mastermind or something like that. And it was just a dude who like ran a blog, and now he's like in all these circles and on podcasts and doing all this stuff around the NFL. And he was just a guy who was like, nobody talks about the offensive line. There's this guy who was doing it for quarterbacks, and he was doing these he was looking at data and stuff that quarterbacks have been doing it for a while. There's another guy who was doing it for wide receivers, and he had his own way of like scouting, and like he was also looking at like things like taking out stats like this ball wasn't catchable, just like certain things. And so like this super in-depth breakdown of like wide receivers that we've never had, and now he's on freaking NFL podcasts and TV and doing all these things. Like, but he was just running a blog. It was just a guy who cared about wide receivers, and now people care about his fucking voice. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's
blog. I don't understand.
I don't have the time for that. I barely have the time for this.
That's fair. I will say, yeah, I do think the linebacker position is one of the most misunderstood. I would love to see like a Netflix-esque like linebacker show, because I know they've done the quarterback, I know they've done receiver. If they did one for linebacker, like I would be seated, because I mean, but you hear it all the time, the linebacker is the quarterback of the defense. Like you hear that all the time, but like, what does that really mean? I feel like people don't really understand like what the actual weight of it is, which is why I feel like previous linebackers are some of the best coaches, because they also have some of the most offensive knowledge on the defensive side. So it's just a match made in heaven. Sorry, we are so off track. Anyways, those are my thoughts about Penn State, Notre Dame. That was pretty much it. It was a really great
Yeah.
game. It was fun to watch.
So the one thing that I do want to say is James Franklin is 1-15, but I don't think he lost this game. Like,
What do
he
you mean
didn't
1-15?
sorry, I did not finish that stat. He is 1-15 against top 5 opponents now.
Oh.
Because he does lose big games. He loses big games all the time.
Damn.
What I will say is he lost this game in the way that Ryan Day has lost other games with like bad roster construction, because why don't you have a single wide receiver on your roster?
Where
Like,
are the wide receivers?
That is 100% his fault. All of that fits underneath the coach. But as far as like in-game management, I don't think he lost in this game like he has other times. And so that makes me interested to see kind of where Penn State goes, to see if they can get back here. Drew Aller's already coming back. They've already landed a wide receiver in the portal and will probably go and get some more. They also need to fire the wide receivers coach because he's obviously booty cheeks. But I just think that I just wanted to highlight that while all of the piling on James Franklin begins, he has lost his team a lot of games. He has. That's how you get to 1-15. Like literally, like you get there for a reason. But I think that this is a game that he coached well and he did well and he pressed the right buttons and he called the right things. And unfortunately, his quarterback is not great and had a bad game at a time that you can't have a bad game.
Wasn't the
and
time,
even still they had a chance to win. And he just threw one of the worst interceptions that you can throw. Legitimately, he just threw one of the worst interceptions that you could ever throw at the worst time. So bad because he is a guy who almost never throws interceptions. Like that is his calling card, is that he doesn't throw interceptions, and he throws an interception at
what was it, like 2 minutes left or something like that? It was
seconds.
Okay, I was like, it was late,
seconds. And it was seconds.
I know that's keeping him up at night, but it's okay because you'll never see him do some shit like that again. I'll tell you that. Yeah. But shout out to Notre Dame for fighting. Shout out to Penn State for getting this far. Never going to be a fan of a team that knocked out my team.
Yeah, there was 38 seconds left.
Oh yeah, that's terrible. Never going to be a fan of a team that knocked out my team, but shout out to Penn State. Deserved it more than SMU did at this particular point in time.
Yeah. I mean, it was a great game. It was a really good game. Like Ohio State, Texas may become a classic off of the end, but I don't think watching that I felt like it was an instant classic.
It was
Penn
not.
State Notre Dame was a classic. That was a game, dog. Like that was.
I'm not gonna lie. I really wasn't entertained by Texas Ohio State until like late in the third quarter. Like I was watching it, obviously, but like I was tired of the penalties. I was tired of the 3 and outs from Texas. Like I was just like, I was bored for a while. I actually thought that's how Penn State was going to be. That's what I said last week, is that the Penn State game was going to get on my nerves. It was actually the Ohio State game, Ohio State Texas game, that got on my nerves a little bit, because I was just like, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, look, Ohio State scored again. Like, but
I will say that I to wrap up, are we wrapping up like both of these? Like
yeah.
I would say the one thing that I forgot to say about the Ohio State thing as we wrap up, this is a game that Ryan Day has always lost. And Ryan Day won a game where, so like the thing with Ryan Day, and that people have said for a while, is all the big games that Ryan Day loses are avalanches. Perfect game plan, whatever, he comes out and then he just maintains.
Yeah.
Ryan, he has not lost a game where he's really had to fight and he's had to take a couple of punches. And that's typically where the nervousness and the anxiety comes in, and he makes a bad play call here. He tries to kick a 55-yard field goal with the kicker who can only kick 45 yards, like things like that. And he cost his team, and he didn't do it. Like, this is, in my opinion, this is probably the best one of his career.
I was about to say, he put together a pretty good situation
of fighting to overcome yourself against a good defense and not losing it at the end, not starting with the bad play calling and the second guessing. I mean, like Ryan Day has lost this game before because a perfect example, when G. Scott, the tight end, catches that pass on 3rd and long, and he is super short, he fights for it, and he ends up making it a 4th and 2. Against Georgia a couple years ago and multiple other games, Ryan Day kicks a field goal there. Instead of going for 2,
Instead of going
Ryan
for
Day,
it.
and it's like a 52-yard field goal. That kicker's missing that. Ryan Day and multiple other iterations of games like this against Michigan, against Georgia, they've kicked field goals and they've missed it every time. And he calls the perfect time to run a QB draw. And Will Howard couldn't stay on his feet, but he picked up 18 yards on 4th and 2, right?
When he like fell forward. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
But like that 4th and 2, he would have settled for a field goal. And
it's because of what we said. It's the coaching to win versus the coaching not to lose.
Exactly. And so I wanted to give the credit there that that is yeah. And then the other thing is, and this is just funny, just an anecdote. Ryan Day said in his press conference that the screen that Travion Henderson scored on, which was just beautifully designed and blocked and just fucking perfect. And it was also unique. This is, people want us to explain like football things occasionally. This is unique, in my opinion. It doesn't happen often. Typically, when you run a screen, and for those of you who don't know, a screen is when you are screening for the person catching the ball. So you send guys out into space to block. Mm-hmm. It's typically offensive linemen.
Guys on the offensive line. That's what I was about to
say. When you run a screen, you do it with the guys on the end. So you do it with the tackle and the guard. Ohio State did it with the guard in the center. Mm-hmm. So they left the tackle in to block the pass rush. And if they wouldn't have done that, it may have been a sack. And they sent the interior guys, which I also think confused Texas. And so the offensive linemen literally ran for 10 yards before they touched someone. 10 yards before they touch someone,
which is not even like normal.
That doesn't happen. So, at all. The funny part about it is that Ryan Day never calls screens, and he literally was like telling his coaches that he was thinking about removing the screens out of the practice script because they never call it. And then in this game, they're like, "So what do you want to do? Do you want to like kneel? Do you want to throw deep?" And he was just like, "Throw a screen." And they were like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, just throw a screen." He never throws screens ever. Like Ryan, ever. Like, I don't know the last.
You mean right now?
And it's 75, just like being on the pulse, right? Like things like that. So I want give him some credit for that, and also remind all of you that I do not apologize for anything that I've ever said about Ryan Day. But if you can be critical of him, you can also, speak highly of him when he's doing well.
Yeah, I would venture off to say that you are a fan of Ryan Day, but.
I've always been a fan of him as a person, and if he was doing what he's doing right now, he would already have a national championship. That's what makes it so hard. Like, if I thought he was a bad coach, I wouldn't be so mad at him.
Fair, fair. Yeah, I do distinctly remember that screenplay, and I was like, look at them getting creative. Everybody's so creative. I love creative football. I'm sorry, that is why I am such a big Lions fan, because I love creative football. I am so tired. Not tired, but like it's kind of like the reason why everybody's tired of the NBA right now. Like I'm tired of watching people, men, shoot threes all day. Like I'm tired. Can we get something interesting? Can we get an alley-oop? Can we get a cool assist? Can we get something? Like I'm tired. It's kind of the same thing with football. Like I'm tired of the same old crap. Like, give me something interesting. Throw some laterals in there. Give me some, give me a flea flicker. Like, the freaking Lions did a flea flicker. Like, please bring those back. So, yeah. Let us now review the game that is happening in 9 short days, people. When you're listening to this, 9, I'm off, 8. When you're listening to this a week from Monday, Ohio State versus Notre Dame. I would like to take just a couple of seconds to just relish in my rightness. I was absolutely correct about this matchup. I mean, we both said it, but like I kind of peeped it a little bit earlier. I just didn't say anything, and I was just like, "Ooh, we might get Ohio State Notre Dame in this in this championship." So okay, I just love that I was correct.
So we're gonna do a piece of podcast business on the podcast. We're in a very weird place with the schedule. Does it make sense? Would you rather drop a preview podcast that drops the day of, but then be a week late talking about the game?
No.
Or do you want to talk about the game a week in advance, and then we just need to move our podcast so it drops after the game? Like on like to see if we can drop it on like Tuesday or Wednesday. Like being on Monday. and the national championship being on Monday, it's like there's not really space. You know what I mean?
Okay, so the two options are talk about it a week late, which I don't want to do, or talk about it after it happens and drop the episode late.
Yeah, see if we can drop the episode on like Tuesday or Wednesday next week instead of Monday.
Yeah, I'd rather talk about it in real time.
So we'll just preview it now. Okay.
Yeah.
Bit of
So
podcast business on the podcast.
this is what we listen, guys. This is what we do offline. So with that being said, we're just gonna wrap that up. So you guys are getting this episode. Obviously, today is Monday, January 13th for y'all. And so next week, look out for us on the 21st or the 22nd. So that way you can get our authentic reactions to the national championship. So you don't have to wait a week for us to talk about that. So with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and preview the game. Ohio State, Notre Dame. What do we think? What do we feel? I've already looked up the spread. Ohio State is the overwhelming favorite, which is not shocking, obviously. But at the same time, Notre Dame is like 12-0 when they're the underdog. So that's my opening. That's my opening statement.
So my thing about this, and it's going to be very similar to the Texas game. And something that I say before. First of all, Notre Dame is the worst team that we've played in the playoffs.
Oh, period.
Doesn't mean they're a bad team. That's not what I'm saying. Don't get me wrong. Worst is a measure. Everyone takes worst and thinks it means bad. But if you're looking at the 4 teams we played,
relatively
one has to be best, one has to be worst.
Yeah.
Everyone gets mixed up on that, and it bothers me all the time. Like, worst does not mean bad. Like, if I say To Pimp, which this is not my opinion, it's just the first thing that came to my mind. If I say To Pimp a Butterfly is Kendrick's worst album, it doesn't mean it's a bad album.
It's a bad album.
And that's not his worst album to me. But it's just like, that's one of his worst songs. It's like, oh, you think he sucks? And it's like, no. But if we're ranking it, an album's got to be last, dog. Like, it's got to be anyways.
Yeah, like Dangerously in Love is Beyonce's worst album, in my opinion. It's her worst album. Not a bad album, but it's her worst.
Yeah, so Notre Dame is the worst team that we're going to play in this stretch. And it also sucks for Notre Dame that they are the most injured team that we're going to play. Like, Marcus Freeman just admitted today, which I don't know if I admitted it so early, but he just admitted today that their left tackle's not playing. He's injured. So the left tackle's injured. They've already lost
their whole O-line, basically.
They've lost their best defensive lineman. Their running back's on a knee injury. Even though he's been playing well, he's on a knee injury. And then one of their guards, I don't know which one of their guards may not be playing. They're saying he's on track to play, but that doesn't mean he's going to play. And then even if he does play, he's probably going to be limited, just like the Texas offensive lineman who gave up the strip sack. He missed the game the week before and he played, and he was clearly limited, and it affected his play. So even if that guy does play, which I don't know, remember if it's right or left guard, he's going to be hurt. One of their wide receivers is limited, and they don't know if he's going to play. It's going to be a game time thing. Like, they are so hurt, and
there's not a lot. Yeah.
And I just think that, like, they would have lost to Penn State if Penn State had a better consistent offense. Like, they have. There's like a line where, and you know this, but there's a line where it's like, how do I get truthful without being disrespectful? And like, they played well and earned their way here, but they also got a lucky draw in the types of teams that they played.
Yeah, of course. They had to beat us and Penn State.
Yeah, like Georgia, they played Georgia, right? But like, this is the worst Georgia team, and they did. This is the worst Georgia team in a decade. But they also got Georgia without their starting quarterback.
Georgia does not have Carson Beck.
He was injured. They were playing a guy for the first time. Georgia hadn't played in 3 weeks, and so like, their offense played horrible in that game, but the defense didn't. But like, so it's like, they're a good team. I do want to say that because there's someone that listens to this podcast that has been in my DMs like for like 5 weeks, like waiting for me to admit that Notre Dame is a good team, and I'm like, no. So I do want to say, like, I have some good things to say about Notre Dame, all right? But like,
crying, hi, thanks for listening.
But it's just, as respectful as I can be about them because they've earned the respect to get here, how do they win the game? Like that's the thing. If we're gonna preview the game, how do they win the game, right? The two teams that have slowed down Ohio State's offense did it because they were arguably the two best teams in the country at playing zone. Playing zone is just not something that you can do. Notre Dame is the number one team in man coverage. That's good, but you can't cover Ohio State's receivers in man coverage. Even if Notre Dame can do it better than some, you can't cover Ohio State's team in man coverage, and you can't learn zone to be as good as Texas or Michigan in a week. It's
not
impossible.
in this amount of time. Yeah, no.
You specialize. So they're probably not gonna change their coverages that much. Ohio State is great against man. They have the worst defensive line that we played, partially because of injury. But also all three defensive lines that we played, and honestly, this goes back to 4 straight games because of Michigan. They've been super strong up the middle. Like all 3 of 4, if you include Michigan, they're going to have first rounders taken from their defensive line, and specifically taken from their defensive tackles. Michigan has 2, maybe 3 first rounders on their defensive line. Tennessee has, after the way Abdul Carter played, he's probably going to be the second defensive lineman taken, and they're really strong in their defensive tackles. Oregon has, and I'm losing all these names, but it doesn't matter. Oregon's defensive lineman who came from Michigan State, Derek Harmon, I remember his name. He's going to be a first rounder, and they have Jordan Burch, who may or may not be a first rounder, but he's going to be in the top 40 picks. Like he's going to go really high, right? And then Texas had Colin Simmons, who is going to, if Jeremiah Smith is going to be the first wide receiver taken in 2027, this kid is going to be the first defensive end taken in 2027.
Okay.
If quarterbacks aren't shining in 2027, Jeremiah Smith and this kid are going to go 1-2. And it probably won't happen because there's probably going to be a quarterback that steps up. But if they don't, this kid is legit as a freshman. I still don't think he should have won freshman of the year over Jeremiah Smith, but he is so good. Like he's literally one of those kids, like you see him and you're like, is that Myles Garrett? Like he's
not is that Myles Garrett. That's a comparison.
He's
Myles
good.
Garrett. That's a comparison.
And you don't know how his career is going to shape out. But as far as freshman impact, you think Myles Garrett, you think Joey Bosa, you think Chase Young, you think Jadeveon Cloud. Like he's so good, so good. Notre Dame doesn't have that. Not that they don't have scrubs, but they don't have that, and their best defensive lineman's injured. So like. What you look at wide receivers, Texas has better wide receivers, right? Tennessee has better wide receivers. Oregon has way better wide receivers. Quarterback, they probably have the worst quarterback. Like, where do they win this game? Especially when Ohio State has just shown that they can win a game with their defense when their offense shoots itself in the foot. And that's where I struggle to find like how it happens. Like, what is the way, even if it's slim, even if it's a 5% chance, what is the 5% chance? What has to happen for them to win the game? And you got to score, unless you're getting the 5% chance is like 2 defensive touchdowns, or like a block punt, or like a defensive touchdown for sure, and then some sort of play that gets you the ball in the red zone, whether it's a block punt or an interception inside the 20, a sack fumble, something where you're essentially guaranteeing yourself points.
Yeah,
Penn State SMU, they had 2 defensive touchdowns, and then they got the ball on a fumble or something that was like right there, something
turnover
like
on downs.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's the same thing we said about Texas. So yeah, I mean, it's tough to the word that I'm going to keep using for Ohio State's defense is suffocating. And when you have a team that will 100% be playing a starting lineup that they have not played this season because they keep having injuries, because they're on their 3rd and 4th person, which is not to say that those guys aren't good, right? But there's also there's a hierarchy for a reason. You know what I mean? Like there's the starters and then there's the backup guys. Now the backup guys need to always be ready for their number to be called, but this is a very, very big game for your number to be called. And if your number is not called very often, and that's the thing that gives me pause about Notre Dame's ability to win the championship this year. I think they can win a championship.
Yeah.
I just don't know if it's this year because of the fact that they've been battered and bruised on their way here. And the only talent they have in the wide receiver space kind of is just Jaden Greathouse. And then Jeremiah Love obviously has a knee injury. So it's just kind of like, he's not a wide receiver. He's a running back. But
he's a great running back, but is a knee injury.
And he's going to play, right? Because he wants to help his team, which is perfectly fine. There were guys who were playing injured in Ohio State and in Texas as well. I think there was somebody who was playing injured. There was there was a few people who played injured. So that's normal. But it's just one of those things where it's like when you've been battered and bruised this much, like, and you're not known for having the most like efficient offense, like, what do you do? And I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. Yeah. So that's why I'm just like, I mean, their defense is not anything to sneeze at either. But no, I do think that Ohio State's ability to score on their defense is stronger than Notre Dame's ability to score on Ohio State's defense.
Yes. So. And Notre Dame's defense, I don't think, is the best defense that we played. But again, as I think I started this with, the biggest problem is that Notre Dame's defense is good, but it's good playing man, and you are not
a different coverage.
Man. And also nobody's said anything negative about Jeremiah Smith because they get it. But like, I don't think if Jeremiah Smith is the type of player that he seems to be, and I know that he is not going to accept one catch for 3 yards.
What happened in Texas? That's what I was just about to say. Texas found a way to quiet him, which is fine, but he also gives like dog with the bone sort of energy. Like he also gives like, okay, you got me once, but you're not going to get me again sort of vibes. Yes. So that's why I'm just kind of like, Jeremiah Smith is going to be on a fucking tear. Like he's going to be like, nobody's going to stop me. No one's going to outrun me. No one's going to like, he's going to have that sort of energy. And I also know too that your offense is going to, that your offense is going to work very hard to get him the ball as well. So that's why I'm just kind of like, I don't know. Notre Dame secondary doesn't suck though. Like
no, it's legit. It's
a good secondary. So that's why I'm just kind of like
Jeremiah Smith has run past all Big Ten.
He's outrun a lot of people.
All SEC, all like first team All Americans. Like it's not like this is going to be. I don't know where you would. Texas by far is the best secondary I think we played. I don't know where you would rank them. I don't know where you'd rank Notre Dame with Michigan and Penn State, and who else has a good secondary? Oregon, I think they have Oregon. Yeah, Oregon has an all Big Ten corner, Jabbar Muhammad, and really good safety. So when you look at the best teams that we played, they've all had good. You look at Penn State, you look at Oregon. I'm not gonna say Tennessee. I could be wrong about Tennessee, but I don't care.
Tennessee,
Oregon. Look at Oregon, Michigan, Penn State, Texas, and then Notre Dame. I don't know where I would rank Notre Dame in those five.
Group of five. Yeah.
I know they wouldn't be one, maybe two. I think I'd probably rank them three.
I was about to say three, probably. They're in the middle. They're not.
I think Texas and Michigan is better, but either way, where to rank them is not the problem. The problem is Ohio State has played secondaries at that level is the point, and the ones that play man coverage got torched.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think this is just, I don't know, because I also think about the psychological elements of these things. I don't just think about the X's and O's of it all. You know, this is definitely going to be a game that comes down to who truly wants it more. You know what I mean? Because you guys both have something that you're playing for. Like Notre Dame, you guys both have not won a championship in over a decade. You guys both have,
it's been like 3 decades for Notre Dame.
No, they said it was like 2013 or something like that. It's been a while since they've won a championship, a very long time. It's been a very, very long time since they won a championship. Obviously, both coaches have something to prove, like as far as their ability to win a championship, especially with the whole Brian Kelly situation with Notre Dame. So, you guys both have a lot that you are playing for. I'm sure the guys who are not injured want to play and bring the natty home for the guys who are injured on the Notre Dame side. So, it's really just going to come down to who wants it more. I personally, like I said, because I, of course, am a little bit more neutral in this particular situation. I hope everybody has fun. I truly will not be upset at either team losing. I know that is not your situation, which is why I'm going first, but I would not be upset at either one of these teams losing the championship. I think when you take a step back and you look at the college football season as a whole, both of them are very deserving of a championship for the season that they have played, for Notre Dame having, basically going undefeated after that one loss, for Ohio State kind of going through the ups and downs that y'all have gone through, and now playing your literal best football at the best time. Like, both teams deserve the championship for different reasons. So it'll be a fun game to watch.
And I just don't think that anyone can say that Notre Dame is playing their best football, right? I just pulled it up just to be exact, right? They beat Georgia, and they scored one offensive touchdown. Their quarterback threw for 90 yards, ran for 80. Their best running back ran for 19 yards. They beat Georgia. You're not beating Ohio State with that offensive.
With that, no, of course not. You're not.
It's not going to happen. So then I look at Notre Dame, Penn State. Their quarterback, they threw for 267 yards between the two quarterbacks, but they had one touchdown and 2 interceptions. You throw Ohio State 2 interceptions, you're probably going to lose.
You're losing.
They ran for a total of 116 yards. That's solid, but it's on 42 carries, so that was like 3 yards per carry or something. So that's not great. And so it's just,
Jordan was like, "I'm going to prove to you that Ohio State is going to beat Notre Dame."
The thing, it's not even like I feel like a lot of people know that. It's not that I have to prove it as much as I feel like we have to show our work and
of course,
and the lack of understanding of like legitimately. I don't understand how, like, if this was Penn State, I could give you like 6 ways that Penn State beats Ohio State. But this Notre Dame team, when you add in specifically the injuries and you add in their last 2 performances, because that matters, right?
They're not equipped.
But
it's also still any given Monday, and that is why I feel like it's important to also say that if Notre Dame were to win a championship, it would not be completely undeserved. It would be, you know what I'm saying? That's the only point that I'm getting at, is like
best stories in sports as well.
Exactly. Like the 30 for 30 is being filmed right now, people. Like, so that's all I'm saying is like
this Ohio State 30 for 30 is gonna be
it's gonna go so crazy. It's just gonna go so crazy. I heard Nick Saban say
it's gonna be called #Fire Ryan Day or some shit.
I'm crying.
It's not called that, like,
they missed the mark. I've heard Nick Saban say on College Game Day, he was like, listen, one of the championships that we won, we lost to Auburn that season. Let me tell you, wasn't nobody talking about us losing to Auburn that year. And I was like, you know what? I really hope just for that. Just for that y'all win the championship so y'all don't have to talk about Michigan.
Yeah, so I have one thing to say on that, and then we can wrap up the show. But before that, the one thing that I was going to say is football is so much about vibes and so many things like that. And I think that this can be poor analysis. It's not really analysis, it's feeling. But college football is so much about feeling. I would be really surprised if Ohio State loses, also for the matter of if Notre Dame loses, it would suck. It'd be sad. They'd be hurt. The majority of their team is coming back, and they're playing with house money of a sort. Yes. The overwhelming majority of Ohio State's contributors couldn't come back next year if they wanted to. This is their 4th year of eligibility. And so I think that also matters. And the level, I'm not saying that Notre Dame's not hungry.
See, I didn't know that, because that's what I was adding in, those other psychological elements.
Like Notre Dame's best players are sophomores.
I'm
not saying they're not hungry. I'm not saying they don't want it. I'm not saying they're not going to fight and claw.
Jordan said, "Don't get in my DMs."
But what I am saying is, you have someone who's back against the wall. You have a team that has not beat the rival in 4 years. You have a team who loves their coach to death, and he was on the brink of getting fired. You have a team full of players who could not come back for a redemption tour if they wanted to, who's legitimately and unfortunately, because Ohio State's a tough fan base, whose entire Ohio State legacy hinges on this game. You cannot be an Ohio State legend that's never beat Michigan. The only way to be an Ohio State legend that hasn't beat Michigan is to win a national championship. And there are still going to be people who won't consider you a legend because you haven't beaten Michigan, but it puts you in a place where you will be remembered fondly, and that will not happen.
You're a part of Ohio State history.
Like, you will. That
don't matter.
There is a kind of thing around this that makes me think, as well as all of the injuries and the this and the that and all these sort of things, that makes it tough. And this is very, very anecdotal. Marcus Freeman, I want you to take the Bears job. If you interview for that job during this week, you are out of your fucking mind. They can wait. You better not take your focus away from this game to interview for your next job.
Surely they would. Surely he wouldn't. Like, I'm not even
I
about to
don't think he
entertain that.
would.
I'm not about to use brain
But
cells to
there are
entertain that.
coaches.
That's
There are
craziness.
do not do that, please.
That's crazy.
Please.
I am not using, because I'm gonna also say, and maybe this is just me being like me. I would hope after bringing this team as far as you did, and to be frank, you are the underdogs. You're probably not going to win this game, and if you do, it will be miraculous. Like, let's just be real. If Notre Dame wins, it'll be a miraculous win, which is why I keep saying if they win, they would deserve it, because it would be miraculous. Yeah. Like, surely if y'all lose, you come back for at least 1 year, so that way you can try to do it again. Like, surely you don't surely not. But that's just my mentality. Like, surely you don't be like, yeah, I took you guys there and we didn't make it, but okay, bye. I'm going to the Bears. Like, that's craziness.
I don't see him as someone that wants that job.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, that just seems insane to me.
It can be surprise anyone because they got some money out there, and maybe he wants to play with Caleb Williams.
But coaching isn't always about money.
I
Sometimes
know.
coaching is about mentorship and, you know.
Yeah, I would be surprised if he takes the job. But I'm just saying, if he's even remotely interested.
Yeah, wait till after the championship.
That's the one good thing about the NFL is some of these teams are going to want to interview coaches who make it all the way to the Super Bowl. So the hiring cycle gives you the time for you not to interview until after the game, if
literally
you're going
February
to interview at all. So
Same.
that's it. That's all. But the thing I wanted to say about Michigan is there's just been like the Nick Saban thing and the things like that. Ryan Day winning a national championship does not I was going to say evolve, and that's not the word that I'm looking for. Erase. That's also not the word that I'm looking for, but it works in this situation. Does not erase what happened against Michigan this year or the last 4 years or at all. Like, it does not make that
He said ever?
It does not make that meaningless. Everyone's joking that Ohio State winning the Natty is going to devalue the rivalry. It's not. It's not. It is a plus. It will put him on the good side with fans. It shows a lot of growth and learning and things and all. But like Nick Saban, I get what you're saying, but Alabama Auburn is not the same type of rivalry. It's just not. And so it still matters. Ohio State fans, even with the Natty, are going to be mad if he loses 5 straight next year. And what they're going to say, because I'll be one of them, is how the fuck did you win a Natty, the hardest national championship of all time, and you still can't beat Michigan? So I just want to put that out there from an Ohio State fan. Like,
Jordan said, "My foot will not be removed from his neck."
Yeah, it may be on his. It'll be resting on his chest plate. I take it off his neck, but I'm not letting him up. I'm not letting him stand up. Like, you still got to beat Michigan, dog. Like, I might let him get a drink of water. Might let him get a drink of water or something. But yeah,
All right, 2-minute warning because you.
I just thought that was interesting because I know that there are other rivalries where, like, winning a national championship, it doesn't matter if you beat your rival or whatever. And I would agree as an Ohio State fan that if it was a one-off thing,
it wouldn't matter that year.
But
Yeah.
Straight, which is why this carries like a different level of weight. It's not just like a one-off. We lost this year and won the national championship, or like if Michigan would have lost last year and won the national, which wouldn't have happened because they wouldn't have got in. But like one of those kind of things, like whatever. But like. This is absolve is the word that I was looking for. This is the absolve is the word that I was looking for.
Absolve, yes, we would have made it there.
Yeah, we got there. It was just
we would have made it there.
The history around Michigan and things like that. 2-minute warning.
2-minute warning.
I'll go first because yours is happy and mine is not.
Oh, okay. And we ended on a bad note last week, guys. And listen, we had to stop the show because like both of us had like a full-blown like crash out even after that of like, what are you talking about? Like, so we should end on a positive note.
I would like to end on a positive
I already know this might make me crash out because I hate this. If you're going where I think you're going, I might crash out. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the Patriots just hired Mike Vrabel, OSU legend Mike Vrabel. The guy that at least a quarter, third, maybe a fourth. I'm going in the wrong direction. A quarter, a third, maybe even like 45% of the fan base wanted Ohio State wanted to hire as their next coach. He is a deserving coach. He is in the Patriots Hall of Fame. Patriots hiring him makes sense.
Correct.
What I do not like, and what a lot of people do not like,
I know what
is
you're about to say.
that they essentially knew that they were going to hire him. And the Rooney Rule in the NFL states that you have to, for any open position, head coach and high-level exec, you have to interview at least two coaches of color in person for that job, because they weren't even getting jobs. They interviewed two coaches who either are not coaching in the NFL currently or have not received buzz in the NFL for head coaching gigs since 2022.
Mm-hmm.
They just picked two black coaches that they knew were not going to get a look by any single person in the NFL. And then when there were rumblings about that, they offered an interview to Aaron Glenn, who is the defensive coordinator for the Lions and should have a head coaching gig this year, hopefully. They offered him an interview, and Aaron Glenn turned it down. And Aaron Glenn is going to interview for every team with a vacancy except the Patriots. The reason why he's doing that is because Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for the Lions, got his interview request from the Patriots like 2 or 3 days before. So it was very clear Aaron Glenn is a viable candidate. Ben Johnson may be a better candidate. Like, that's not the point. But Aaron Glenn's a viable candidate. And instead of reaching out to the Lions for both of them at the same time, which is what most people are doing because most of them are interviewing them, they interview two black coaches who nobody wants as their head coach. They were never giving the job to push through Vrabel, who again deserves it. Like, that's not the problem.
Not a knock against him.
And then when you hear the rumblings, you're like, oh, let's go interview the one black candidate who actually probably would be good for the job after we've already asked his counterpart and probably interviewed his counterpart so we don't look bad. And it's just like the heart of the Rooney Rule isn't being followed, and it sucks in a weird way because, like, it's not like they hired a bad coach. It's not that they hired a coach that's not, worth it or whatever. And Vrabel is probably the number one or the number two most sought after hire on the market because he's been a head coach and he was successful and he's in the Hall of Fame there and all this stuff. Like, it all makes sense. But how they went about it sucks. It's I almost said disingenuous, but now you're counting.
You guys will be drunk.
It sucks. And I just think it's bullshit. I think it's disrespectful. I think it's bullshit. And I think that everyone knows it's bullshit because everyone, even in the national media, is like congratulating and encouraging Aaron Glenn for not accepting that interview.
They're doing it. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think the NFL, like, if it's that blatant, you should, I don't know, just take a third round pick away from her. So I don't know what the Rooney rules are, but like, they should still be punished by the rules of the Rooney Rule because they did not, like, they could have done this by interviewing Aaron Glenn and Robert Saleh, two coaches of color who are getting other interviews who actually maybe potentially could have wowed them and maybe they wanted to hire them. And they went and did Pep Hamilton and someone else who is so far removed from being an NFL head coach. And it's just like, and this is part of the, like, and the juxtaposition of the other thing that we started about race. Ryan Day does not have a problem with black quarterbacks. But this is actually a problem. Like, this is
actually an issue. Yeah.
Fuck it. That's just bullshit. That's all.
This is where, to me, they flew too close to the sun with the DEI. I understand that there needed to be some sort of push in the NFL because, again, back to what I mentioned earlier, the systemic suppression. I mean, if they were systemically suppressing black guys from playing certain positions, they were definitely systemically suppressing them from being in the front office and from being coaches, right? We know this. This is not shocking. This is America, okay? This is America. So I understand the sentiment of the Rooney Rule. I understand feeling like you have to put something in place to say that you should at least consider coaches of color, but then you get crap like this. Then you get stupid stuff like this, where you are bringing up coaches and interviewing coaches that you know don't have a shot at the gig just so you can check off a box, instead of actually genuinely considering coaches that have a different background than what you do. You understand how damn ridiculous it is that we even have to freaking have this as a rule in the first place? This is ridiculous that they had to write it down in the NFL bylaws to make you weirdos look at people who don't look like you. And now you do some bullshit like this? Like, oh, okay, well, we got to follow the Rudy rule, so let's just go pick some random guys. And it was crazy because we knew people clocked it so easily. Because how the hell? Because I think it was their social media that put it out there like, oh, this person and this person has been interviewed for the job. And then a couple days later, now they're saying it's Euron Butte. And now a couple days later, now they're saying it's Vrabel or whatever his last name is. Again, deserving coach. Who cares? The point is, we all peeped it as soon as the two coaches were announced that who you interviewed. We were like, you're on mute. You were like, we were all like, okay, so you Rooney rules your way out of this.
Yes.
And that's the thing. It's just so frustrating because, again, coaches are not being genuinely considered for, or coaches, because it goes to coaches, GMs, and high-level executive positions. So not just coaches, but just in general, this is what we're talking about, is that now you're making a mockery out of what the rule was really in place for, and that was just giving us an equal shot because you people are so disgusting and weird and racist and have for some reason continued to believe the nonsensical eugenics that says that we are not as smart as you, and you don't just give us the chance in general. Ridiculous. I wish the worst for the Patriots all the time, but I wish the worst are right now.
And my thing with it, first of all, so they interviewed Pep Hamilton and Byron Leftwich, two guys who were never going to get a head coaching thing anyway. My thing is, like, to do that is intentional because there are black coaches who, like, okay, there's a rule, you have to follow it. And there's something that's like, I listen to an NFL podcast, and one thing that they say all the time is they say, like, because these coaching interviews are like 10 hours. They review the roster and they come with the playbook and all these things. And this podcast that I listen to always says, like, I would interview as many people as possible. And essentially, like, alluding to, like, stealing their ideas, like getting their opinion of, what's wrong with the roster, what they would do, offense, things like that. And then you have all these ideas and you can pick and choose with your new coach. And, like, so he's like, I would interview 10 people for every role because these 10-hour interviews, they get on the board and they plays and all this stuff. And you just get all of this outside information. And then also you, like, if this guy doesn't get a job, maybe you double back. Hey, you want to be offensive coordinator? You want to be a defensive coordinator? Right. So to interview two coaches that have, unfortunately, just being honest, they have nothing to say. When you could have interviewed, there's Elijah Eliro Evero, a star defensive coordinator. There are coaches who
that are actually worth their salt.
Who are worth it. And even if you weren't going to give them the job, because again, maybe it was always going to Vrabel, which everyone knew the Patriots were hiring Vrabel. You could have learned something from them. The Patriots defense was not to the level it was. Aaron Glenn is running a defense that is literally, like, the second week of the season lost its star pass rusher. It has so many injuries. You don't want to learn from him. You don't want his opinion on how he would how he would play against Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. Aaron, get on that board. How are you defending these quarterbacks?
What are you doing? Yes.
What are you doing against Patrick? What are you doing against Josh? What are you doing against Justin? What are you doing? And then they're all videotaped. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's good. Hey, Vrabel, this is what we learned. You know what I mean? Like
anything, but just to bring two randoms.
Yeah. Because it's never about the hiring of Vrabel, but it's just, but that's intentional. That is intentional to say who are two black guys that we can interview, who for what? Like it's
to check the box. To check the box that I hate even exists, but if we're gonna put the box there to check it, this is ridiculous. And I do agree there should be some level of punishment for this, because what you're not going to do is make a mockery out of us as an organization at the NFL trying in our best way possible to increase the level of diversity at all of these different roles. You are not going to make a mockery out of that. And that is exactly what you just did. And you deserve to lose some draft picks or something for that, because This is not what this rule is for. It's not just for you to come in and check a box. It's because you people are fucking idiots and you're weird and you're stupid and you don't believe that Black people have the ability to do the same jobs as you. I don't know. Go get a freaking lobotomy and figure that out. But you should be treating them as actual viable candidates. And yes, to your point, there are too many Black coaches in the NFL currently that are actually worth something that you could have interviewed. And then you still could have checked off the box, and you could have gotten some good information. But no, that is so silly to me to go as far as like picking randoms. No shade to these coaches, but like picking randoms and being like, okay, we did it, ha ha ha. And Coach Raybrill, like that's just dumb. Like
and we keep saying Black because the majority, it's mainly white coaches and Black, but there are other coaches of color. It's just a coach of color, like, and it's like you couldn't find, like, if you were gonna do a sham interview, you couldn't have got Marcus Freeman, right? Like someone where you're really gonna learn something.
They can be outside of the org,
it's you know, like you didn't want to like James Franklin. He's not going to the NFL, but like you have a high pick. Interview James Franklin and then make him talk about Abdul Carter. Like, what are we talking about? Like,
what are we talking about?
But yeah, it's so intentional.
Those interviews were probably full of bullshit. Like, and if I was one of those coaches, hopefully they were like aware of that and they were sitting there like,
because I would have said no.
Y'all not trying to hire me.
Yeah.
Like, and if I was one of them coaches, I wouldn't give them shit. I would not give them no information about nothing. I would have just been like, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, of course it's on. Like, I'm not telling you nothing because I already know that you in my face playing. Yeah. Like, bro.
Speaking of playing,
I said I was going to crash out. Yes. So
what else is playing that we're happy about?
Okay. I am so excited. What is so interesting is that I haven't actually had a 2-minute warning about this, but I have mentioned it before. But now I just wanted to have like an educational moment with you guys because, as y'all know, my favorite sport in the entire world is sports that are played by women, but specifically basketball. Love football, but football would be much more entertaining for me if women played it. Anyway, not in lingerie. That's not the point. The point is, because I know somebody's going to be like, "There's a lingerie league." No,
you didn't like the lingerie football league.
I mean, yes, because I'm gay. First
of all, they be hitting.
They be knocking each other out.
Oh my God. That is like, I know it's the lingerie and the whatever. They be hitting, boy. I'm like, oh my God. Like,
oh my gosh.
Y'all hit harder than the men do. Like,
no, literally, because
heads off. Yeah.
Bro, if you watch women's rugby,
crazy.
Then you already know, like we be running smack dab into each other. Put some pads on us, and it's just gonna be even worse. Anyways, that's not the point. So there is a new 3-on-3 league for women's basketball called Unrivaled. If you are a super big sports fan, hopefully you've heard about it because they have taken the sports industry by storm in many different facets, the sports business industry, the women's sports industry, just the general building of leagues industry. Like if you haven't heard about it, I'm really shocked. But let's say you haven't. Unrivaled is a league. It is 3-on-3 women's basketball, and it will run for 8 weeks starting on January 17th, which is why I'm talking about it because the next time you hear from me, I would have seen some games. And I would be very excited to talk about them. What makes this league so different and interesting is that basically it was born out of a need for WNBA players to have a domestic option to play basketball because most WNBA players are going overseas to supplement their incomes because America is actually one of the worst paying countries when it comes to women's basketball. They can make literally what they make in a couple of months in America in like a month or so playing overseas. So
and that's what double, triple.
Some of them double, triple. Yeah, so
if like the stars make millions across other countries.
Exactly.
And while they're making like 300,000 here or whatever.
Yeah. Well, the Supermax contract in the WNBA is $250K. So there's a need for that. And also, if you guys are not aware, that was the reason why Brittany Griner even went to jail in the first place in Russia was because she was there playing basketball. So there's one of those things where it's like, we have to be able to have this option for women in domestically for the women who genuinely don't want to go overseas or they don't want to take their kids overseas or they would rather be with their family, whatever the case is. And there have been attempts at this before, but this is the first year of this particular league. So it's called Unrivaled. It was started by 2 WNBA players, Brianna Stewart and Nafisa Collier. Now, I don't think they did this on purpose, but it is just brilliant marketing that this is also the same year that Nafisa and Bri actually battled for a championship. And now here they are about to play in this league. What's really, really great about Unrivaled is obviously the salaries. So the average salary for a player in Unrivaled is $242,000. And that again is basically a supermax contract, and they play for 8 weeks. And what's really, really cool is that they have pretty much the biggest stars in the WNBA coming and playing together. It's 36 women, and it's the likes of Skylar Diggins-Smith, it's Nafisa Collier, it's Brianna Stewart, it's Angel Reese, it's Cameron Brink, it's Kayla McBride, it's the girls, Chelsea Gray, Jackie Young. I could keep going. Like, it's the girls.
Dejanay Carrington,
Dejanay Carrington,
Marina
you
Mabrey,
truly, Marina Mabrey, Alyssa Thomas, like, you could keep going. These are the who's who of the WNBA, and
I think the only one that's not doing it is Asia, right?
Asia's not doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Asia's not doing it. Kelsey Plum did sign on to do it, but then she decided not to do it. And then, of course, notably, a lot of people feel whatever they feel about it. You guys can actually kiss my butt on it because I don't care. But Caitlin Clark is not in it, which is fine.
She was originally. She also backed out.
They said that if she wanted a spot, she could have it. She declined to be a part of it. So, which is, again, fine, because she said, Caitlin Clark herself said she needs to not play basketball for a while.
Yeah.
So with this being said, this starts very soon. I'm super excited. What's going to happen? It's going to be 3-on-3. They have 6 basketball clubs that these women were drafted to, if you will. The content around this has been absolutely amazing. Like, literally just look up Unrivaled on Instagram, Twitter, whatever. The content has been super good.
They have Paige Beckers and Juju Watkins as
Flage.
Is Juju not doing it as well?
Juju is an investor.
Okay, so they have Paige and Flage as like their main spokespeople,
like NIL,
NIL as and that kind of stuff. And then Juju and we talked about it last week. Who's the tennis star? Which one is it? It's
Coco Gauff.
Coco Gauff invested in it. I mean, they raised like $36 million for this or something crazy.
They're at like 40-something million. And what's really, really great is they have amazing partnerships. They have a partnership with Under Armour, who's supplying all of their gear and their uniforms. They have a partnership with. The uniforms are great. The logos, the branding has been really good. They, of course, got enough funding to create a really, really amazing facility for these women. So they have practice courts. They have the main court that they play on. They all have their own locker rooms with their own branding of each team. They've got massage rooms. They've got saunas. They've got cold tubs. They have a great weight room. They've got nutritionists out there, estheticians. They have a partnership with Sephora. Sephora created a glam room for them to get their hair and makeup done. I mean, just everything that a professional women's player athlete deserves. They flew every single one of those women to Miami first class and have them up in their own housing because, again, it's only 8 weeks. And what's really, really cool about this is they play 3 times a week. And what's really interesting is they play 2 games a day. So they'll have 6 games, 8 games, whatever, you do the math, per week. There will be a championship at the end where they will crown a champion. And then in the middle of the season, they will have a one-on-one tournament where it's going to be like a queen of the court sort of vibe. Yes, there will be a one-on-one tournament where they have it'll be queen of the court, and that person will win $250K on top of what she already gets paid.
Who's winning that?
Dejanay Carrington.
She has a bag.
Dejanay Carrington is winning. I'm telling you guys right now, Dejanay Carrington is winning. And if it's not Dejanay, it's Alyssa. Alyssa Thomas or Dejanay is winning.
Alyssa has a crazy bag too.
But I also would not sleep on Alicia Gray. And Alicia Gray is the first person to ever win both of the All-Star competitions. She won both the skills and the 3-point.
I look. You feel like, how are you scoring on Angel? She's gonna.
But Angel is not the best scorer, and you still got to score to win. Like, no shade.
Yeah, but like, just you're right. Yeah, all right.
I'm thinking about the players who have more experience too. Like, no shade to Angel. I think Angel will win it one day. But when you're talking about going up against a Courtney Williams, an Alicia Gray, an Alyssa Thomas, a Dejanay Carrington, a Skylar Diggins-Smith. Like, I didn't even mention Arike.
Yeah.
Arike in 101. So that's going to happen in the middle of the season. It's going to be kind of like their version of like their All-Star break.
Everybody lucky Kennedy Carter not there.
Everybody is lucky that Kennedy Carter is dropping 40 in China right now.
Talk about a bag. Yeah, Kennedy would have them spinning.
Everybody would be upset. And I do think hopefully she gets an invitation next year because she had herself a really good season this season, and she's having herself a season in China. Like, she has dropped 40 points like 4 times. Yeah, anyways, I say all that to say, obviously, I'm super excited about it. It starts January 17th. It is on TNT. That's another big deal that they signed, where it was a nationally televised thing. It's not an app. It's not bullshit. It's not a paywall. You can watch it on TNT, and I think you can also stream all the games on Max. And it is just so uplifting to watch. It's also been super fun because most of these players do not play on teams together. So you're seeing these basketball clubs being built by players who most of the time you would never see them play together. You would never see them interact with each other because they play on other sides of the country. So that's super fun to see, like, different dynamics sort of grow from there. And it's also like people have been describing it as like an extended all-star camp, like an extended all-star weekend, because it literally is all the all-stars. They're all together. They all live near each other or together or whatever the case is. They're all in this big facility together. So you're getting all of this auxiliary content from like Angel or Cameron or whoever, of like them hanging out in the locker room with Chelsea Gray. And it's just so cute. Like, it's all super cute. They all are making their own little content together as clubs as well as like individual players. And then, and this is the last thing I will say, they announced as well that there will be a series called Unrivaled Unscripted, which will be a docu-style series that will follow the players
They're killing
off the court. So every week on Fridays,
this is very well thought out.
Is it not? It's like Women Were in Charge or something. Every week on Fridays, they will be releasing episodes of Unrivaled Unscripted, which will be following the players, just part of the, like, just their experience and their interactions and whatever off the court. So if you haven't tapped in yet and you are a basketball fan or you're just interested, it'll be fun. It's also, like I said, it's 3v3 basketball. So the court, they actually made the court a little bit shorter. So it's a little bit faster paced. And the game should be a little bit more explosive, a little bit more interesting. So get into it. That is my pitch for Unrivaled.
Yeah, the first game is going to be Nafisa versus Brianna Stewart. Like, that's genius.
Genius.
The broadcasting team is, and the studio team is Candace Parker, Renee Montgomery, and Laura Jabara. Oh man,
yeah. So they've been rolling out everything so beautifully. They rolled out the broadcasting team a couple days ago. It's an all female pretty much team except for one guy. They will have a studio television show.
Partner.
Samsung is a partner. They will have a pregame studio show as well as a post-game studio television show. So they're going to have auxiliary content associated with that, because if you are a WNBA fan, much like myself, you have noticed that they only do studio shows for nationally televised games. They don't do it for every game like they do for the NBA. So on the Unrivaled side, they will have a studio show for every game. And what else did they roll out? They rolled out something else too.
Everything, it seemed like.
Yes, they rolled out. So, oh, and the other thing that I also forgot to mention is every single player in the league at the moment, the first 36 players, part of the deal of them signing on was that they also have equity in the brand. So these players are not just making money just from playing in the league, but they are making money from whatever residual revenue comes into the league, because they are all minority partners.
Which also, not that they really needed it because of all of the amenities and all the other things that's going on. It also gives them more of a reason to ensure that
the league be successful. Yeah. Exactly. And what's really cool, and I'm just rambling, is so they had media day last week or this past week. Most of the time, these players are overseas. So most of the time, they do not have access to American media to discuss anything that's going on. And I'm not exactly sure, but I know a good number of these players that are playing in Unrivaled are free agents. And so it has been very interesting to be able to hear from them so close to when free agency officially starts for the WNBA and when those contracts officially start getting negotiated. Satou Sabally has already said, Satou Sabally is the best player on the Dallas Wings. She has already said that she has played her last game with the Wings. There's no way we would have known that because she would have been in Germany. Yep. So we have Alyssa Thomas, who's played for the Connecticut Sun for 11 years. She's a free agent. They spoke to her. She's saying, listen, I'm just focused on Unrivaled right now, but Unrivaled has everything that I can need. This is a really great facility, and Connecticut doesn't have that. So if we see Alyssa making decisions based on what facilities are available, because these teams, there's a little inequity with, Phoenix has a practice facility. Connecticut can't even practice games without being kicked out of their own stadium because they don't have first priority. So when you start having those conversations and seeing those things, and these women are all talking to each other, there's a lot of decisions and things that could come out of the fact that they played together for these 8 weeks going into the next WNBA season. So this is going to be very consequential to the WNBA moving forward. And a lot of them, of course, are, part of the Players Association and all those things, and they're seeing what Unrivaled can do for them, and that gives them even more ammunition to go back to the league and say, hey, what we doing? So get into it.
Well, thank you all for listening to our 2-minute warning. And remember, this is 2 minutes. This is 2 football minutes. This is not 2 real-time minutes. But yeah, it was a good show, and thankfully we ended on a happy note. Good luck for you fans who are fans of NFL teams in the playoff. Mine don't gotta worry. They won't be there.
Also, mine, we are at home. Both of our teams are at home.
won't gotta be there. Please don't lose your house over sports betting. Every time I look at my phone, somebody that I know is texting about sports betting. And we will catch you next
wait.
week. You don't know exactly.
Speaking of losing houses, I just want to take a moment and send my love and my prayers, thoughts, all the things to the people in Los Angeles who are currently losing their homes, currently losing their belongings. It's really, really sad to see. There's a lot of resources, so we'll try to share the resources. If you guys want to get involved, do not donate to the American Red Cross. Give to like direct people who are in LA, like trying to help. So can't let an episode go by without acknowledging that, I see this, I'm staying with you guys, and I really, really, hope that everybody can get out as safely as possible and, can start to rebuild.
Yep. Thank you for saying that. And we will see you sometime next week. We don't know when. It won't be Monday. You all will be busy watching the national championship game. We'll see you next week.